Boom. Hey, folks, I could use some lighting. That was a little too mood, I guess. How's everyone doing? Today was a day, and I'm going to suggest you're going to need a few things to, a few supplies. And so your first supply that I recommend having is some sort of caffeine. This is my caffeine of choice, but you do you. Um, I also recommend, if you're so inclined, that maybe you want something a little bit stronger. Oh, today I had some feelings, I had some emotions, I had some thoughts. I had some swear words. And it's funny because last night I was musing to myself, and one of the things that sort of occurred to me is that I haven't really been getting particularly creative with with the mockery of some of the failures, because the prosecution hasn't quite been at like the Karen Reed trial level. But today they really pissed me off. So yeah, we can have some discussion of that. So if you're new here, what are we covering? We are covering um, the Uvalde school trial. It is Texas versus Adrian Gonzales. Adrian Gonzales was a school resource officer, not the school resource officer at the at Robb Elementary, but a school resource officer, and he was one of the people who was first to reply. Oh, hey Nate, how you doing? I hate the fact that you have me obsessed with this trial. I started watching it because I was like, well, there's probably going to be some gun discussion, and that's kind of my thing. And now it's been bizarre. So he's accused basically of cowardice. This guy, I hope you're doing great, Nate. I hope everything's going fantastic. Um, so he's accused basically of cowardice because they say that he was, you know, um, basically that he failed to go and shoot the shooter. And they're like, you were there, you had a gun, go shoot the guy. And the thing is I'm inclined to agree with that normally. I'm a defense lawyer, and I'm also like, I'm a gun person. And so one of the things I've pointed out is that it's really important, the police response in these circumstances. And quite frankly, I'm horrified by what happened at this particular school because, you saw like 350 cops standing around not doing anything. And with 350 cops, well, just just by sheer volume, you would think that they'd be able to get something done, because this guy doesn't have 350 bullets if it comes down to it. So I expected to go into this having serious rage for the accused. And instead, what I've been seeing so far is that the prosecution has badly struggled to try to present a case. What they've been showing is that that the events were horrific, and they've been showing that it happened, but we haven't really seen anything that gets down to the critical bits, which are, well, where was Adrian Gonzales? What was he doing or not doing? Why did he have and so this is kind of horrific. This is kind of horrible. And so yeah, we're gonna have a look at this one. We're gonna, watch what happens today. We're gonna cut a lot out because there's a lot of stuff that happened in this that, quite frankly, should have been solved with, I mean, probably could have been solved with, you know, with that. So we'll see. We'll see sort of what's going on there. And what do you call it? I see somebody saying you should watch Lawyer, with the Scott Peterson RSO from Parkland and his attorney. You may think differently after watching. The thing is, the state could probably bring a better case. They're just not bringing it yet. And so far, the defense has been doing this really magical thing, which is that the defense has been able to take witness after witness that the prosecution brings. And a lot of these witnesses are people the prosecution is bringing just for the purpose of, like, identifying photos and stuff. And so they have this witness who goes up, and this happens repeatedly, where they have people who go up and they're like, hey, I'm going to identify 1,000,002 photos. And the defense is like, and isn't it true that Mr. Gonzales is is some sort of hero? And it's like, what? How? And the prosecution could have done a lot to avoid this, but they just really didn't. And in a lot of cases, I'm just really astounded by, how they're not managing to do what they need to do. So let's jump in, and we're going to start with the state's first witness, and we're just going to do that. Okay, here we go.
So my career started at Snyder Police Department, and I was a patrol officer there for 4 years. In 1998, I was employed with the Texas Department of Public Safety. Through my career with DPS, 4 years as a highway patrolman, and then I made a motor vehicle theft service. I was an investigator for approximately 5-6 years there with the auto theft.
All right, so you can see this guy's got the Texas Ranger star, and he is a crime scene investigator and so forth. So what does the state have him doing? Well,
we basically started at the door and worked our way through the hall, through the path, based on the information that we were given where things took place.
All right.
Did your crime scene search, did that include specifically the hallway and nothing inside or outside of the hallway?
That's correct.
So this guy was at the hallway. All right. What do they have him doing for a long time?
Those are the two restroom.
Is this from the east looking directly west?
Correct.
And before we move in specifically, has there been information or items that were removed before this photograph was taken? And by that, I mean items of medical relief that was provided.
Correct.
Okay. Could you tell us just in general terms what has been removed before this photograph was taken?
I mean, obviously you can tell by looking at this picture that the medical intervention and stuff that had previously been done before we had got there and arrived and started marking the evidence.
And did that appear to you to be a triage area?
Correct.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about medical intervention, because EMS is sometimes called like the evidence mangling service by the by the police. And the reason why is that when the police are showing up, or when the EMS are showing up, what are they doing? Well, they don't care about evidence. They don't care about like crime scene management. They don't care about any of that because, quite frankly, not their job and not their priority. Their priority is life-saving activity. And so one of the things that you will, one of the things that you'll see is on a scene where EMS has arrived, they just kind of explode out with stuff. And, there'll be wrappers, there'll be gloves, there'll be, whatever it is they needed. And as a personal example on this one, when my wife broke her leg and we had the EMTs in the house, after she was at the hospital and she's like, go home, I'm going to be here for a while. So, I did. the entire room where she was just like, wrappers and boxes and all sorts of things. My email is runkleofthebailey@gmail.com. So the the everything was all over the place, and that's just the way that is. So he's saying, yeah, we had to clean up a whole bunch of stuff. Now this guy then proceeds to spend like 12 hours on what his next task is.
3 fired cartridge casings.
So you may put one marker down for more than one casing.
Correct.
Exhibit 292.
Item number 16, identifying the 3 fired cartridge casings.
Okay, so that little like 30-second clip, imagine that he does that like 7,000 times, and that's really what he gets called for the prosecution. Is like, okay, this picture, what is it? Yeah, this is some more cartridge casings. Cool. This picture, what is it? Yeah, it's a footprint. Yeah, okay, and the reason why they have him doing that is so that they can get all these pictures in, right? And they can have this guy talk about what this is. But it's really kind of boring. And the defense strategy ends up putting the prosecution on the back foot, because what they could have done, what you would often do with a witness like this, is they're like, okay, pass the witness, and you'd be like, no questions for this dude who just like testified that a whole bunch of pictures are pictures, right? Really commonly, you're not going to have, questions for this guy. But this is not most questions. Or most guys. And the reason why is because this guy's a Texas Ranger. He's a bit of a badass. And so they get to ask him questions about being a badass and what that looks like. So this is where the defense gets to sort of take over. And yeah.
17 to
promoted to Major Ranger?
I promoted out from trooper status to auto theft investigator. And then that's our criminal law enforcement division then. And then after 5 years of being an auto theft investigator, I promoted into the Texas Rangers, correct?
Right, so it's after that you promoted to the Rangers. Okay. And then once...
Now, I really got to apologize because the defense doesn't seem to have turned on their microphone today. And so we're going to crank the volume on this guy. But the defense just seems to have left the microphone in another state. And so, yeah, we're going to have a hard time hearing him. But watch what he does with this witness on cross.
You made Ranger, I should say, you go to, as a matter of course, everyone goes to a 3-week crime scene investigation course.
That's correct, yes.
And that's where, that's what you're here to testify about today. You're working this crime scene.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And during all those years, you do you call it in-service? Some police departments call it in-service or continuation training.
Yes, sir, we do.
You probably carry a weapon today, right?
Yes, sir, I am.
So he just asked, you're probably carrying a weapon here today, right? And he says, yes, sir, I am. I see somebody saying, can we have closed captioning? Closed captioning is unavailable. I'm going to try refreshing just to see. Maybe sometimes it updates, but I don't think we've got it. And I think that the reason why is because the quality is so poor. I suspect YouTube is having a hard time putting closed captions on this.
That's correct, yes.
And that's where...
Now, this varies depending on jurisdiction as to whether or not police are allowed to carry a weapon into courtrooms. Some jurisdictions, like some places, require that they put stuff in like a locker or the like. and some jurisdictions allow police to bring them in. In a lot more jurisdiction, it's a lot more common that they're allowed to carry them in than required to keep them out. But just be aware that that's not always the case there. So, yeah.
That's what you're here to testify about today, your working as crime scene.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And during all those years, you do you call it in-service? Some police departments call it in-service or continuation training.
Yes, sir, we do.
You know, you probably carry a weapon today, right?
Yes, sir, I am.
Are you carrying a sidearm?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
A pistol.
Yes, sir.
Right? And you have to qualify to shoot that. Is that correct?
We do. Yes, sir.
Several times a year.
Yes, sir.
And you have to do tactical training.
That's correct.
In order to keep your status as a police officer, right?
Correct.
Primarily, and also to keep your status as a ranger.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
So what he was asking him, if you can't hear it, and I know it's real hard, I'm sorry, that's the court audio. He's saying, you've got a gun, you've got to train with the gun, you've got to practice with the gun, you've got to recertify with the gun several times a year, and you have to take tactical training, you have to recertify on the tactical training, etc. What is it? The thing is that from my understanding, the Texas Rangers are a little bit more on the ball than like your average cop. And yeah. So that said, U.S. police tend to be a little bit more, trained in firearm use than Canadian ones. A lot of Canadian police, they may go through like 50 rounds a year for practice, and the 50 rounds a year, like that's nothing, right? 50 rounds is a box of ammo. So, it's really nothing. If you're wondering what, 50 rounds looks like, this box is 50 rounds. So, and I'd shoot way more than that in a range trip. So, yeah.
Okay, and so let's talk about your role in this instance.
Yes, sir.
You said you're based out of Wilson County.
I was at the time of this. Yes.
And you're not out
No, sir. I'm in Atascosa County now.
there. Not a million miles away, but
It's a little bit, not much.
same district attorney, but different county. Right?
That's correct.
So you made your way on May 24, 22 to the scene. I think you said late afternoon, early evening, 5:30 p.m.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
You had a briefing. Right?
Correct.
And was it Lieutenant Marina?
That's correct.
We've already met Lieutenant Marina, but Lieutenant Marina, he was there before you, made the scene before you,
Yes,
and gave you a briefing on the situation.
that's correct.
So at that point, and I think I've seen some of the reports of this incident. I mean, it's discussed in several ways, but you're there to investigate or help to investigate what ended up being an officer-involved shooting.
Typically, but it was called in and given to us as an active shooter. Yes, sir.
That's how it came in, right?
Correct.
That's where I was going. So in actual fact, what you were investigating was a mass murder of children, right?
Correct.
And the attempted murder of 2 police officers,
Correct.
which ended in an officer-involved shooting, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and so Ranger Marina gave you the briefing. I think you mentioned something about the
All right, we'll jump ahead a little bit more as he's sort of puffing up the guy's credentials. Why is the defense puffing up this guy's credentials? It is unusual that you will see the defense like boosting a prosecution witness, and it's usually a sign that the prosecution has brought the wrong witness. And that seems to be the case in this particular instance. And yeah. I see some of you guys mentioning the Koberger video that I just put out. Koberger's lawsuit is wild. Koberger's lawsuit is crazy. So the families of Koberger's victims are suing Washington State University. And if the allegations are true, Washington State University did basically nothing. And basically, in a situation where everyone was like, this guy is totally going to kill or SA somebody. And they're like, should we do anything? Nah, it'll work itself out. Well, it worked itself out. Not in a good way, but it worked itself out.
The groupings.
There you go. But you can presume by the groupings.
Correct.
What I mean by that, I would imagine, is if there's a grouping of spent cartridges in the hallway, which there were, right?
Yes, mainly in front of the doors.
Mainly in front of the doors of classroom 111 or 112, right?
Correct.
And so we'll look at the pictures in a second. But there's a grouping or two, I think there were two groupings. There's shells everywhere, right?
Yes.
Let's start with wider. There were shells everywhere. That's not an indication of where those rounds were fired, right?
Correct.
But there was a grouping outside those two doors.
Yes, sir.
And I think you said a second ago that that's an indication of those rounds were fired outside of those classrooms, right?
Correct.
And were you aware that it's believed that the classroom 111 was left unlocked?
Yes.
But nevertheless, you've got a group of casings that were fired by the killer in that corridor.
Correct.
So in the absence of, so you know now that he didn't fire at anyone in the hallway, he was firing into the classroom, right?
Yes, sir.
So firing into something where you can't see inside. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Because a police officer can't do that, can they? The police officer has to be able to see what they're shooting at.
Correct. You have to identify your target. Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is an important point. The police are restricted from what you might call blind firing. So, and this is just, out of good practice. So let's imagine this is a bottle opener. Let's imagine it's a gun, right? Because so in the movies, you might see somebody, for instance, peek a gun around a corner. They're not looking and they start shooting, right? The police aren't supposed to do that. And, the reasons why are fairly obvious. You've got a classroom with potentially, with kids in it that are potentially, you don't know if any of those kids are still alive. And what you really don't want is some officer who just starts shooting without seeing what he's looking, where he's shooting, and maybe ends up, hitting a kid, right? That would be awful. So the officer's got to look and see something before he actually, engages with it. And that applies to, any of the police officers. This is going to be relevant when they start talking about the tactics, right? And what they should do. And yeah, so it is an important point.
Your target, you can't shoot it.
Correct.
But that's not what this person was doing, right? The killer.
Correct.
Firing indiscriminately into classrooms, through walls.
That's correct.
And the police officer's not allowed to do that. You can't do that.
No, sir.
Whoop, I gotta, unsurprisingly, the police are held to a higher standard than a crazy killer is.
And again, I think you said that you, and I don't want to put words in that front, you said that you believe the classroom door 111 was open, right? Unlocked.
Correct.
Obviously, had it been locked, I guess from your previous answer, that would make the outcome of these things look very different.
Correct.
I want to draw your attention to a specific photograph. We'll find it and we'll ask you to have it. But just to get a photograph up and we'll
Sure.
we'll have to put it on the screen.
Yes, sir.
You guys want to punch the television on its display?
Yes, sir.
You can't see the top of the picture. No, that's not right.
All right, we're going to jump ahead a little bit on this guy just to get to some of the tactical stuff.
Yes. I mean, it travels. Yes.
It will travel and it will bounce. You don't know where it's. Sometimes you fire a weapon outside, it can be difficult to identify where that's coming from.
In this situation, not only are we identifying the sound, we're also gathering the information of our complainant, our victims, or our reporting parties as to where that sound's coming from as well.
Exactly.
So this is a key point as well. And one of the things that they're talking about is the echoing, right? The echoing issue is, and I saw somebody was complaining about echoing, but it was just one person was complaining about echoing. So when somebody fires a gun, it'll echo off surfaces. And so you can hear this even like at a gun range. You know, if you go to the gun range and you take a shot, you'll often hear like the bang from your gun and then a secondary bang from off a wall or something like that. And this can make it, you know, what they're pointing out is that in a stressful situation, this can make it difficult for somebody to figure out where a shot is coming from, right? And this is also why you get a lot of the initial reports with these shootings, where it's like, we have reports that there may be 2-3 people involved, and it turns out there's one. Well, how do you get reports of 2-3 people involved? One really common way that happens is that somebody, like you've got an officer, they hear a bang, and then they hear another bang shortly thereafter, like just a split second apart, but off, you know, from a different, you know, distance. And so what they assume is that this is two guys. They assume it's a guy here close up and a further person, you know, down the way. And they're like, there's two of them, right? And really it's only one person and an echo. And I see people saying, but they've trained for this. Yes, but you've only got like two, you know, your training still can't make you have better ears. And this is a big problem. And sometimes it can be a question of which one is the real shot and which one is an echo, right? Which one is which? If you're hearing things coming from two directions, which is the correct direction? Which is the, you know, where are you supposed to be? So the point the defense is making with this is that maybe this guy might have been confused about direction, might have been trying to figure out the direction, because really it's only like a 30-second time window that he had in which to engage this guy outside the school. It's a really short window. And so if he is trying to figure it out and he's a little confused and he doesn't know what's going on in that time window, then, you know, that's it. Then they missed their window. So, yeah.
Exactly, and if those two are not consistent, you hear, and what someone is telling you doesn't match with what you're hearing, that creates even further problems for an officer to identify where this sound might be coming from, right?
It could, but I also want to listen to the information provided to me to follow that information and where it's coming from or where that person's hearing it from or seeing it from.
And let's talk about that. So hypothetically, and this is not a trick, right? Let's talk about that scenario. So, for example, hypothetically, if I were saying to you, Ranger, I've seen someone shooting over here, right? And at the same time, you're hearing something like the report of a long-barreled weapon. The report of a long-barreled weapon or a rifle is the sound of it going bang, basically, right?
Sure.
And you are hearing something that is not consistent with what I'm saying. That could cause some confusion in you to know where those shots are being fired from, right?
Possibly.
So you're not just going to fire blindly to your weapon to the sound of gunshots.
No, I'm going to take the information given to me, analyze it, look, process it, and if I identify the target, then engage.
If you can't identify, all you've got to identify the target, if there is a target, is a sound. You can't just fire towards the sound, right?
Correct.
No, you can't. And so
one of the things you'll notice here over the course of the day is that the Rangers here don't really like Mr. Gonzales. The Rangers are entirely down with, like, you know, Mr. Gonzales. They're like, screw this guy, right? The Rangers aren't thrilled with, but as much as he is like trying to push back a little bit, and is trying to push back is where he's saying like, hey, we, you know, you'd go towards where you're being told they're shooting and that kind of thing. But that doesn't, the defense is doing a really good job of pulling from this guy all of the reasons why Mr. Gonzales might not have gone through and might not have, might not have been able to deal with this in the way that we would think that we would like to after the fact, right? Because, yeah.
So I'm talking about the prosecutor's first things and described it. So you can't just do that. So, and obviously and you said that the prosecutor asked you if you're dealing with an incident like this, do you take your time or you immediately react? Remember that?
I'm sorry.
In an incident like this, because we know this was an active shooter, right?
Correct.
Mr. Turner asked you if an officer should just take their time leisurely or should they immediately react? Right? Remember that?
Yes, sir.
Of course you said time is of the essence. You must immediately react. Right?
Correct.
But you agree with me that if hypothetically I were to say to you, because you're outside there and you're not a police officer, right? And I'd say, I've just seen a man shooting his weapon running at that school, right? And you saw someone running at that school and you chased them down, that would be taking immediate action, right?
Correct.
So if someone did that, they would be taking immediate action.
Correct.
Right. Okay. And then we spoke about some tactical movement, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Because you went to the scene, well, you spent 3 days there, right?
Yes, sir.
And what incidents did you have?
3.
So this first one's number 3?
Yes.
All right, we're going to jump ahead a little further with this guy.
A further out, zoomed out view, right?
Correct.
And then you go closer again
Correct.
with more detail, and then further again to show more detail again.
Correct.
To illustrate things. So this is a diagram or photograph that's further away.
It's zoomed out photo, yes, sir.
And we're generally looking at the southwest corner of the building.
That's correct, yes, sir.
And you can see in the distance there, you can see a vehicle with the word police written on it,
Correct.
and another white vehicle parked behind it, quite a distance away, right?
Correct.
So we talked about, I think, and again, I want to use the correct word, you say, tactically moving towards the south. So we already discussed the problems with hearing a shot fired outside from a high-powered weapon, right?
Correct.
It can echo.
Yes, sir.
Right? So now I want to talk about how one or an officer that should approach that sort of sound, right?
Yes, sir.
And I think you said you should approach it tactically,
Sure.
right? Because you wouldn't just.
So, this kind of makes sense. You've got a gun, you're running up on a guy with a gun, and you're not going to do it just by I'm just going to you're not going to Naruto run your way over to the, towards the threat, because that would not make any sense. Right. So he's like, you're going to be approaching it with, you're going to be crouching down. You're going to be moving from cover to cover. You're going to be keeping your eye out. You're going to be watching, because that's what you got to do. Okay. And they're going to talk about how this makes it hard for Mr. Gonzales to get in there.
Run blindly towards it, right?
No, sir.
Because that would cause more problems than solutions it would solve, right?
Correct.
Because a dead cop can't help anyone, right?
Correct.
Right. But so we're talking about moving tactically. So I think the prosecutor's suggestion is, so someone who was over here, let's say a police officer who got out of this vehicle here, who's on the south side of the building.
Yes, sir.
Right. So what we spoke about is, you're familiar with slicing the pie?
Yes, sir.
Or quartering a corner.
Yes, sir.
Like quartering would be more of a military phrase, right?
Yes, sir.
Slice.
Okay, so let's talk about what slicing the pie is. All right, so you've got a corner, or a wall or something, right? And so what they don't want you doing is just running out around the corner and you get shot. Okay, instead, what you're doing is you've got and I'm just going to use this hot sauce as my gun, because YouTube gets picky. But, and my cell phone will be the wall here. What is it? What do you call it? So instead of jumping out with your thing, what you're instead doing is you're approaching it and sort of moving around, right? And the idea being is that you are, what do you call it? The idea being that you're sort of circling around like this, and, you kind of divide. If you imagine the sphere of movement as a pie there, you're kind of, slicing it up by moving, right? If that makes sense. And I don't really know what this question is. Doesn't it suck that YouTube relies on women to whip up comments? I don't even know what you're talking about. So I got no idea what this is about, but feel free to explain it. But yeah, the pie slicing is basically you're doing that, right? As you circle around. And so that tactically, what that means you're doing as you're going around is basically you're minimizing the amount of time between like you sticking out and the other. Basically, you're trying to make it so that so that it's as little time between that person that you're like trying to invade or trying to like engage. You're minimizing the time between they can see you and you can shoot them, right? So because you're moving like this, you're basically keeping your field of able to target something very close to your movement. I don't know if I'm explaining that properly, but the slicing the pie concept is really important for any circumstance where you want to, for instance, go around a corner, go around a wall, go through a doorway, any of these things, right? Because that's where you want to minimize that, right? And so there's less exposure, there's less danger, there's less any of these things. And it's a much better way to do it. Now, you are still, anytime you're like, going around how many people have seen The Expanse? Show of hands, like Expanse. If you've seen, Expanse, then you will have heard the phrase that came up of doors and corners. That's where they get you. Doors and corners, right? That's kind of the dangerous parts of, and this is why, like, clearing a house, if there's somebody, let's say you come home and there's somebody might have broken into your house. Going into your house is very dangerous because it's all doors and corners, right? And so this is why it's good to have a team for clearing it. This is why it's good to have, any of these things, because you want to check those things, right? So yeah. Anyway, that's kind of slicing the pie. And yeah, I still haven't figured out what Adrian did wrong. As soon as the prosecution figures it out is, we'll let you know. So.
In the pie or cutting the pie would be a civilian law enforcement term.
Correct.
Right. And then also the correct way, so let's pretend someone was over here where I am. Right, somewhere in this west parking lot. That's what over here is the west parking lot, right?
Correct.
So if someone were to hear the report of gunfire over here, the correct way to approach it would be to take cover along this wall here, right?
Potentially one way.
One way.
You just can't see what else is out here in this vacant lot as far as any other potential concealment or cover to make a wider approach.
And that's
Can I also talk about directionality? So let's say, we've got our wall here, right? Now, here's the wall. And if I'm going around the wall and I'm doing it, if I'm holding a firearm, I'm holding it up like this, and it's not dead center to my line of fire. The reason why it's not dead center is because I am right hand dominant, and I'm also right I dominant, right? So if I'm holding up something, close, and I'm going to use my airsoft gun, but like YouTube, this is an airsoft gun. It is not a real one. So, if you're sitting there and you are like, you're holding the gun close so that you can, keep it tight to you, but you're going to want to have it closer to your dominant eye, which means it's off to one side. That means that if I'm going around a corner, it's a lot easier for me to go around the corner this way than it is for me to go around a corner the other way, right? So that's kind of a key thing there, right? So it matters. And I note here that Gonzales is probably right eye dominant because most people are right eye dominant. And when I look at that picture, when I look at this, what direction would he have to be going? He'd have to be going left. Going left is hard. So I can see why it might mess you up. So
As far as any other potential concealment or cover to make a wider approach.
And that's a good point. We're talking about a wider approach. But for argument's sake, because you were there, right? At this scene?
I was at the scene, but I didn't have much part in this. Yes, sir.
I
But I was there, yes, sir.
I'm not trying to get you. Remember, this is mostly an open field, right?
Okay, yes, sir.
And we see a little thin tree there.
Okay, yes, sir.
That is a tree,
Yes, sir.
right? But it's not a substantial tree.
Correct.
That would be
But-
possibly concealment,
Potentially, yes, sir.
potentially concealment, right, against a long barrel weapon, because we know what weapon we're talking about now.
Yes, sir.
High velocity,
Correct.
high power,
Correct.
could penetrate.
oh man, high velocity, high power. Yeah, the what do you call it? Oh yeah, and I see somebody saying, how do you determine eye dominance? The easiest way to figure out your eye dominance, if you're wondering, pick a point, like just something in your room, right? Pick a point. So in my case, I can look right at the, my webcam has a little light on it, right? That's perfect. So make a circle with your hand, with, a hand, and look at the point through that circle at a distance, right? And then you keep that point in your, in that circle, and you bring your, you bring it up to your eye, and whichever eye you sort of land on is your dominant eye, right? And so one eye, it'll feel like it makes sense to do. And yeah, you keep both eyes open. One eye, it'll feel like natural to bring in. And the other eye, it'll feel less natural. That's how you determine your dominant eye. Now, some people are ambidextrous, I guess. And one of the things that is awkward is if you happen to have a different handedness than you have eye dominance, if that makes sense. Because, and so the reason why this is awkward is because all of, like, they make right-handed guns and they make left-handed guns, but if you have the wrong dominance, you might be shooting a left-handed gun off the wrong side and so forth. So yeah. All right. Oh yes, I was ranting about him saying high-powered. So, they're talking about high-powered, and I'm going to break out my 223 demo. So this is a 223 round, right? And you might say, wow, that's a really big round. That's really... this is my hunting rifle. So the hunting rifle round is substantially larger, both in terms of the projectile and in terms of the powder volume. The powder volume is substantial. You know, the powder volume difference is quite a bit. And when we start getting to something that I would consider a high-powered round, well, this is 300 Norma Magnum, right? And so, you know, when you look at it, the 223 is a wee little tiny baby compared to my 300 Norma Magnum. In fact, the projectile is almost the size of the entire 223 round. So, you know, they talk about this as being a high-powered round. And I mean, it is more so than, say, like these 357 rounds. Violet, knock it off. So more so than the 357 rounds, but far less so than, like, you know, what we might actually consider a high-powered round. What did the shooter have? The shooter had an AR pattern rifle that shot 223. So not like an AK-47 or an SKS. Those shoot this round. And the 223, you know, you can see how it sort of compares. The 7.62 by 39 is a little larger. But, I mean, what 223 is it's a small, fast round, right? And so that's kind of a key thing, right? So when they're talking about it being high-powered, it's like, no, it's one of the lower power rifle rounds, and that's why it's used in a lot of semi-autos, is because it's low powered and because it's light. One of the big advantages of 223 is that you've got you can carry a lot more of these in your pockets than these. And if you're building a magazine, like when you've got a magazine to put the rounds into, right? You can have 30 rounds of this in a magazine that absolutely would not take 30 rounds of this, right? So that's kind of a key element as to why these are chosen, but they're not super high powered.
Penetrate that tree easily, right?
Correct.
So that tree is not cover
Correct.
for a human body hiding behind it.
Correct.
From fire from the weapon we're going to see in this trial.
Correct.
Right. So there's no cover out here. Go with me on that. There's not.
Okay.
I represent you. There's not. You were there. You tell me, Gary, there wasn't any. There was cover there if there was, right? There's
Correct.
not. Right. So the only cover you got is this.
I love that, like, that sort of trick in cross-examination. You want the guy to agree with this, and you're like, you'd tell me if there was cover there, right? There's no cover. And the guy's like, you're right. So it limits the ability of the witness to waffle. What gun and ammunition did Gonzales have? I'm not sure what model of firearm, but he had a 9mm. He had a 9mm handgun. So now an AR outguns a 9mm handgun, right? An AR just absolutely outguns a 9mm handgun. And, you know, it's not even close. The reason why, well, the AR it shoots, you know, faster, it shoots flatter. And the other thing is aiming distance. So let's talk a little bit about aiming distance. So, you know, your handgun is about yay long, right? And so when you're looking at, you know, your distance, you've got your rear sights at the back and your front sights at the front, right? And so you line those up. But the more this gun moves, it makes, like, each motion of the gun makes a substantial motion. So it's harder to aim in this circumstance. And yes, it was a semi-automatic, one bullet per trigger pull. Yep. So now let's consider and we're going to use the still damaged ouchie stick for this. Let's consider a long gun, right? So you've got your rear sights here, you know, towards the back, and your front sight's way up at the front. And that means that it's easier to adjust your aiming because of that. So a rifle is easier to shoot. They just are, right? Handguns are harder to shoot. And is that why they saw off shotguns? No, people saw off shotguns so that they're easier to fit into easier to fit into like a jacket or something, or a pocket, as opposed to like the full size ones. Kurt, I'm gonna buy some like blue guns. I'm probably not gonna make it to SHOT Show this year, but if I made it to SHOT Show this year, I would totally hassle the blue gun guys and be like, dudes, we need to work together. And they'd say, dude, go F yourself. So yeah.
Building.
Okay.
Right. So can you see, and can you see what I'm indicating on the screen here?
It's a fenced-in area or protective area with their air conditioners.
So that's right. It's again, just guesstimate for me.
Spectrum, I saw that.
Because you were there, do you remember?
5 foot, 6 foot.
What is a blue gun? We're actually going to see one later today, although theirs is orange. So a blue gun is basically, it's a fake gun, and they make them in a variety of different colors. And the blue guns are basically just demos, right? They're fake guns, and so that's they're used for like training and stuff like that. So that's kind of why they're a big thing. Yes, their blue gun is orange. Do I have a 3D printer? I don't, but I need to get one. I really need to get one. So yeah. Also, maybe I'll set a goal. I'm not sure if the goals are a good thing or not. I'm going to use the goals less, but I'm going to set a goal, and I think I'm going to set the goal for 1 super chat. Here we go. And this will be for Runkle Mailbag. I got something in the mail that I'll show you guys, but I'm going to set it to 1 magenta super chat. So here we go.
About that, right? And again,
4 foot.
From 4 to 6 feet. 4 to 6 feet chain link fence.
Correct.
So in order to get to the corner of this building, so if someone were to, let's pretend for a second this is the corner of the building, if I may move around the world. So let's pretend for a second this is the corner of the building, right? That building there, right? And I want to go to the corner of this building to take cover so that I can have a look around the other side into the west parking lot, or slice the pie, right? Slicing the pie would be to come to the corner of this building. It's not an accurate, well, it's an accurate representation of it. A person would come up on the corner, right? And they'd just slice in the pie. It's like cutting slices off of a pie. Right?
Correct.
That's why it's called slicing the pie.
Correct.
Like take a little bit off the pie, a little bit more, a little bit more. So eventually you're clearing a little bit at a time. So you come here, you can see what's going on ahead of you. And you'll be slicing the pie very slowly.
Correct.
Careful your muzzle. I'm not going to point at you guys. And as you go further, you're cutting a slice off the pie. To go further and further and further, keep cutting the pie.
So he's explaining how this works.
Right?
Correct.
That's what slicing the pie is. Military calls it quartering the corner.
Yes, sir.
Because you're taking up in quarters. But here, if we apply that to this wall, we've got a 4 to 6 foot fenced in chain link fencing away. Right?
I mean, there is a fence there, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's there, right?
Yes.
Up here.
You just have to change your dynamics a little bit.
You do, yes, right. Well, we'll talk about that. But in order to get to the corner of this building, Justin, can you display the further one? I think it's 7.
So this witness doesn't want to help the defense, but he's being very helpful to the defense, right? So
in order to get to the corner of that building, which that building's cover, right?
Correct.
To get to the corner of that building, you would have to climb into, because we talk about fatal funnels, right?
Correct.
That would be almost like that would be a fatal funnel. If someone were to climb into this fenced off building, fenced off area with these AC units, to climb into that is a fatal funnel. Because there's no place to retreat or advance if you're caught in there, right?
Correct. We're focusing on the corner here. I understand the corner, but I'm also going to mention that there was also a vehicle in the parking lot, which could have been used for some kind of concealment or cover as well.
Okay, we'll get to that, I'm not there yet.
Okay.
Right? I'm still coming down this building.
Okay.
Because we got to negotiate. Me and you got to negotiate this building first before we can expose ourselves to the open to get to vehicle. I agree with you on that, but we're not there yet, so we're going to rewind.
Sure.
I'm going to ask my question again. My question is again, if you to get to the corner of this building, Mr. Turner's talking about cover, moving tactically in cover. To get to the corner of the building, you'd agree with me that you've got to climb into this caged off area, which looks taller there, 4 to 6 feet tall. Right.
To place yourself up against the building, yes. To still use the theory of slicing the pie, just widen it out and use the fence as your depth of widening and slicing your pie.
Okay, so let's talk about this. So there's this fence here, and the issue is how do you get around this corner when you've got the when you've got the fence there? And we got that. Will So the question is, so what he's saying here, so like you've got your wall, you can round that corner by going at it like this, right? And by like circling around it. But you can also do it from a distance, right? You can also take a wider arc. And so that's what this witness is suggesting, is go around the fence, take the wider arc, but then he's not going to have cover as well. And one of the things about cover is that if you're right up against the cover, it's fairly easy to shoot around the cover, right? Fairly easy. But at the point where you're like 20 feet off of the cover, right? Because you're going around this fence, and now the cover kind of works both ways, because you're taking shots and you're probably going to hit the cover. So when we see here, this fence, that's a substantial fence. So I actually think going around like they're suggesting here is actually, puts this guy at a very, very different, a serious disadvantage with the guy with the AR. And Elf Wiggins, I did set it at one $50 super chat, which we got. Whiskey Pig says, hi, Ian, treats for the pups. I will make sure the pups get some treats, although Zora is on the low fats treats. But all right, I said I would show you guys the what I got in the mail, the Runkle mailbag. All right, so, and I got to do this without injuring myself. So I got a new very elfish sword. And you can see the guard is very much leaf patterned. So it's got a very nice balance to it. And yeah. So I tweeted a bit ago about like, hey, my sword guy has a new sword. Should I buy it? And people were like, yes, you need to. So it's like, all right, we are totally doing this. So yeah, I bought that. So I see people saying, somebody said that potentially Criminal took a ban for a blue gun. Maybe I just got to get some like really cheap like toy guns. So yeah. All right, here we go.
You've got to climb into this caged off area, which looks taller there, 4 to 6 feet tall. Right.
To place yourself up against the building, yes. To still use the theory of slicing the pie, just widen it out and use the fence as your depth of widening and slicing your pie.
We'll talk about that.
So I don't do any sword fighting. However, I do use the swords, and not so much the ouchie stick because it's delicate and now I broke it. But what is it? I use the swords for things like yard work. And yeah, I actually totally do. So yeah. yeah.
But I get it. You're right. If you're going to just avail yourself of the cover, the hard cover, you've got to go into that cage, right? You'd agree with that? Not going out wider. We'll talk about that next. To go to that corner, you've got to go into that cage.
I wouldn't say you had to go into the cage, looking at how that pipe is inset from the corner of that building there.
I think it's 7. Oh, not 7. The last one, please. The last one that we like. Yeah, how much? I've got it. Sorry. Sorry, Ranger. It's marked as defense 6. I'm going to put it up on the screen so we can talk about it.
Yes, sir.
So we spoke about the drain pipe, right? So you agree with me that this is a different angle. So now this is looking at the building. This is south, looking up to the west, right? Is that one? 6, sorry.
And these are the same corner?
Different angle. Well, let's look at it on the screen.
Sure.
So we can,
I just find it to be different.
yeah, it's taken later, but it's the same corner, right? Remember we looked at it earlier?
Okay.
It's been offered. It's entered into evidence.
Yes, sir.
So you'd agree with what we're looking at here is it's taken later because you can see the grass has changed. But this is that very same corner west. This is the west side of the building, and this is the south side of the building,
Yes, sir.
right? And this is that fence.
Okay.
And you'd agree with that fence is because you said, oh, there's the pipe. That fence is. I'm not even going to ask you to estimate how far away that is from the corner of the building.
Okay. Yes, sir.
But you can't. You to get to this slither of brick here, you would have to expose yourself greatly to run back inside to get cover, right?
I wouldn't put myself inside the fence area, but yes, sir.
Why wouldn't you put yourself inside the fence area?
Because then I limit myself.
Because you limit yourself. And you limit yourself because if someone were to come around that corner armed with a weapon, bent on your destruction, you would have nowhere to go, right?
Correct.
You would be in a fatal cage, let alone a fatal funnel, right?
Correct.
You would be very vulnerable.
Correct.
And in this case, probably dead, right?
It could be.
Could be.
Wounded, injured.
Yeah,
Yes.
and of course,
So he's walking this agent, like just, and I say walking this agent, he's like, pulling this agent through this statement. And it's actually hard to tell that the agent here, like the ranger, is actually reluctant to agree with this. He's not coming along with this willingly or eagerly or anything like that. He doesn't want to agree with the defense lawyer, and instead he's like, well, I guess I kind of have to, right? So he's like, well, okay, it would be a bad idea for him to be there, right? So yeah, it's interesting.
you do a very dangerous job, right? Sometimes.
I mean, our job is dangerous. Correct. Any job today is dangerous.
Oh, come on. Any job today is dangerous. I mean, the thing is that policing is not, in fact, the most dangerous job. There are several jobs more dangerous, but you are more likely to get shot as a police officer. If you are, for instance, then you are to get shot as like a sewer worker or a paper pusher in an office, right? Now, I mean, there are jobs that are more dangerous. Like if you are working, taxi driver is actually a really dangerous job because A, you're driving all the time, and B, you're a robbery target. But like, there's plenty of jobs where there just isn't that much danger, right? So, but I mean, policing isn't zero danger. It's higher up there.
But specifically, being law enforcement is a dangerous job.
Sure,
But if when you're acting as a police officer, you can't help anyone if you're dead.
that's correct.
Right. And so that's why we use, prosecutor talks about tactical movement. Officers are trained to move tactically, right?
Correct.
And it's not just so that they can help someone else, right? That's the eventual goal, is to be able to go and help resolve the situation. But it's also to try and keep them alive long enough so that they can resolve the situation.
That's correct.
So let's go back. If we can go back, Jason, to the last one, please. So we confirm this is the corner.
Correct.
Because, and I appreciate your candor, Ranger. You wouldn't have put yourself in that cage.
No, sir.
No. Because I want to talk about how then somebody should negotiate that corner. Because I agree with you. So here we are. So what we want to get there is this corner, right?
Yes, sir.
Right. And the fence, but that was sometimes later.
Yes, sir.
And we know, because there's a wider out photograph, and there's a black SUV. There's been a lot of talk about the black SUV that's in the parking lot. Right? That would be potential cover at some point, right?
Correct.
But the problem with that is that you'd have to negotiate an open space to get to it.
That's correct.
No cover, right?
Correct.
And in order to, the whole point of this is the prosecutor asked you about moving tactically. We mentioned that. So to move tactically to this corner here, to be able to place myself on this corner, so that I can, if this is the corner here, and I'm sorry to give you my back, if this is the corner of that building, in order to be able to slice the pie or quarter it, to look what's going on over there, I can't come to the edge of the building, can I?
No, obviously I have to work with the obstacle that's there.
So, and that's what, in this case.
So basically, what the defense lawyer is doing extensively here is being like, look, this is not an ideal circumstance. It might have been hard for this guy. It might have been, difficult to navigate. And it might be something that he has to figure out, as opposed to just being like able to rush right in. Right. So, defense lawyer's doing really good at this. We're going to jump ahead.
That's the witness. No further questions, Jeff. Last witness.
Recall, either side.
Not my discretion, right?
Nope.
No.
We'll jump back a little bit then.
You got other obstacles in the parking lot, as we've seen in the previous photos as well.
I agree. So in order
But
to,
you have a whole open area outside of that to be able to work with, to be able to still use that building and conceal yourself.
with no cover in that parking lot, I got it. But in order to go to that corner, an officer
He's like, you could go to the parking lot, and he's like, where you have no cover. Okay, I understand. And he's cutting the witness off to prevent the witness from answering that. And yeah,
would have to come 10 to 15 meters out, 10 to 15 yards out, which is about 15 yards, I reckon,
10 or 15 or further.
or further. So to go, if that's my corner there that I've got to try and negotiate now and quarter or slice the pie, you see I'm further away from that building.
Absolutely.
So I'm already, to try and come to the edge of that building there, I'm hugely exposed from my left-hand side, right?
You can still use that building at your advantage even further out.
But the angles are so much wider, right? Ideally, that's what we want. The prosecutor's question was framed that go to the corner of this building here and then start slicing the pie or looking. That is not a possibility on the south side of that building, right?
You're not going up next to the building, but to use what is available to you, yes.
I got it. But that, come into this corner, I'll ask you again. Come into this corner, tight to this building, in cover, not concealment. Cover, hard cover, is not possible.
Overruled. You can answer if you understand the question.
I mean, obviously you can't go up to the corner of the building because of the obstacle.
Thank you.
That's where you have to use the remaining room that you have,
You have to use a remaining.
the opening field.
Got it. And basically, so that's right. So basically, to do that, you'd be in an open field, right?
Putting yourself in a position in which you could possibly potentially still identify a target.
Maybe, but in order to do that, you're still hugely exposed in order to do that on this side of the building.
Exposed to a degree.
Exposed.
Exposed to a degree. I mean, yes.
And then,
so he's got this guy to explain just how, like, it went from the prosecution's theory being, well, this is a very simple, like, thing. Go out there and shoot the guy, right? Into, well, now this is a tactical nightmare and a big disaster. And how do you know what the right thing to do is? And this guy doesn't know. This guy doesn't have the good answers. Like, he actually, the defense lawyer got this guy to provide a tremendous amount. And keep in mind, the prosecution called this guy in for one purpose. One purpose. Can you tell us what's in these pictures? Can you tell us what's in the pictures? And defense did so well with this guy. So well. Like, yeah. I thought that the state really screwed up by bringing this guy in, because at the end of the day, he gets he gets flipped around. So, all right, on to the next guy.
And on that day or the next day, were you assigned a specific area to search?
Yes, sir.
And
Mr.
what area
Trevor,
was
can you
that?
use your microphone?
What area were you assigned to search?
Classroom 112.
So this guy is another Texas Ranger who I am going to call the combat potato, just for reasons. But what does he get called to do? Well,
765 is another view of that door from the lower bottom third of that door, if you will, below the handle.
So the first view was above the door handle, the second view was below the door handle. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And exhibit 766.
766 would be the brick wall, the stone wall that's directly behind where that door you just viewed was. So once again, this is going to be the west wall of that classroom. That's the window, the grayish area is that window that you saw earlier. And this is going to be a picture of what appears to be shrapnel hits on that white brick.
And is it once again directly across from the doorway to 112?
Yes, sir.
And so I believe if you described a pathway from the hallway through the doorway, all the way across the room, leaving shrapnel across all the way to the back wall,
Yes, sir.
would that shrapnel and that pathway be dangerous to people in 112?
If somebody was standing there, yes, sir.
State's exhibit 767.
all right, so he gets brought on for exactly the same thing as the last guy. We got a whole book of pictures. Can we go through the pictures with you to show you all the pictures? Okay. So what happens? Well, you're already sort of guessing what happens.
That drawer, which was open, that's how it was when we found it.
Oh, and what is it? Bears will consider eating a human if they're sufficiently hungry. We're not their preferred food, except polar bears. Polar bears will consider eating a human if there just happens to be a human in the area and they're not busy with anything else. So, yeah, okay. I feel like this judge has aged about 6 years in the course of this
Okay,
trial.
please be seated in court.
And it's only day 5,
Jury,
so
We recessed for lunch. We have passed the witness for cross-examination. So, Mr. LaHood, when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Ranger.
Good afternoon.
My name is Nico Hood. We've never met before, correct?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, pleasure to meet you. I'm one of the 3 lawyers who represents Adrian Gonzales. And you testified before, I'm assuming?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You know how this works. It's cross-examination. I'm going to ask you some questions, and if you don't understand my question, just ask me to repeat it, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you went over some of your training and your kind of your specialties. I'm not going to go through your academy and being a trooper and then being a ranger and then going for ranger school. But you mentioned something that caught my attention. You said, I think the government asked you if everyone is trained the same. You said some have specialties.
Yes, sir.
Oh, what do you mean by specialties?
So within the Texas Ranger Division, we have certain rangers that have gone to additional and more advanced shooting reconstruction schools. Me, myself, I'm one of the instructors for the bloodstain pattern analysis program. So I've had additional training in that realm of things. So that's what I was referring to when I say that we all have the same foundational training, if you will, and then from there go on to different things if that's what it calls for.
Got it. Well, part of your training is you've trained in firearms.
Yes, sir. I have had firearms training.
And you continue to train in firearms every year.
Yes, sir.
And you've been trained in tactics.
Yes, sir.
and I was already like, holy shit, the defense is doing it again. The defense is doing it again, where they bring in like one of the prosecution witnesses who's just here. The whole reason this dude is here is to be like, here's a bunch of pictures that this is what they show. And the defense is like, all right, let's get some tactical shit out of you. What's wrong with bear liver? Bear liver is extremely high in vitamin, I think it's D or A, and can actually be toxic because of that. Okay, let's jump ahead a little bit.
Tactical way of doing it. There's a tactical way of doing it.
There is, yes, sir.
And when we say tactical, meaning safety for you and for the people that you're trying to protect.
Yes, more so myself, just giving myself the best advantage of being able to approach that situation.
And you're not being selfish when you say more for myself, right?
Not in that statement, no, sir.
I can tell, and I know what you meant by it, because a police officer that's dead is no good to anybody, right?
That's correct.
So you need to be.
Remember how we heard the previous witness? They suggested to the guy, hey, a police officer who dies is no good to anybody. So you got to look out for yourself first. This guy gives that to the defense, right? He hasn't seen what the last witness testified to, but he just directly states it and gives it to the defense. And it's, and I mean, the combat potato is like, he knows what he's talking about. The combat potato is very much like, yep, this is how you do it. I mean, this guy, and he's being honest about it. So, yeah.
Alive and be able to protect people so you can minimize the loss of life.
Yes, sir.
You ever heard of a blue gun?
Yes, sir.
Okay, those are practice guns. There's an orange one too, right?
Yes, sir.
Will you believe me if I tell you that this is not a real weapon?
I'll take your word for
Will
it.
you believe that?
All right, so they are bringing out a blue gun. So they are they're gonna show us a blue gun, except it's actually orange. But yeah.
Will you have the bailiff check with this?
I believe, yes, sir.
This magazine can't come out. Would you like to inspect it?
I'm good to go.
Okay, and so when we look at tactics, there's a way to tactically hold this weapon in a long rifle or a handgun, correct?
Correct.
So this would be a low ready.
Correct.
I don't even like the fake gun point of view. This is a high ready.
Yes, sir.
This would be a side ready.
Sure.
So he's showing us with the the blue gun, the orange gun. This is where I decided that Nico Lahoud goes shooting. When he said, I don't even like to point a fake gun at anybody, I'm like, this man shoots. And I suspect that this entire team does, right? And the thing is when you hand like a fake gun to somebody who isn't like a gun person, what do? Well, their finger goes on the trigger, and they're willing to like point them at random people and whatever else. Whereas people who've built up all of the the habits are like, I don't want to point this at anybody, and I want to make sure my finger's off the trigger. So yeah. Runkle, I know him. I think he'd be humored with the nickname. Good, because it is intended to be humorous. And the guy actually, like, he knows his... I like this witness. So you can tell him he's awesome, or that I said that he's awesome. So, yeah.
And this would be Sewell.
Yes, sir.
And we explain to the jury what Sewell means, what a Sewell position is.
As you can see, he's got the gun sucked to his midsection. It's just a way to have the gun safely pointed down, but at the same time, close to your body, and it's a way that you can easily re-engage a target if needed.
And re-engage, you mean go from a Sewell position into an active shooting position, correct?
Correct.
And
Ooh, I hated the language he used. Did you just catch that? He said, go from the Sewell position into an active shooting position. And I would have just said shooting. I would not have said active. But, yeah, what is that position used for? Where you've got the gun sort of tucked in like that? You know, it's used in circumstances where you might have to be, you might have to like be tucked in for some reason. Either there's, various people who are like packed in close to each other, or there are circumstances where, but you've got that, and then you can go immediately to, and I mean, if you need to, you can just do that, right? Just go from there to there, or you can, do the full out and press, but, you can have several people like stacked up, going like this until they're ready to draw out. It's a useful position, and yeah. All right, here we go.
So the 4 gun safety rules are always treat a weapon like it's loaded, correct?
Correct.
Never point it at anything you're not prepared to kill and destroy.
Yes, sir.
Always keep your finger, I like to say high and outside the trigger guard, but at least outside the trigger guard.
Yes, sir.
And this is the trigger guard.
That is
And this would be the trigger.
correct.
And always know what's behind your target.
Yes, sir.
Those are 4 gun safety rules that everybody that carries a weapon, especially law enforcement, should know immediately.
Yes, sir.
And so that's why
I can tell you that if I asked the lawyers in my town to give me the 4, the 4 gun safety rules, most of them would not be able to do it. So, and he's able to, rattle it off and so forth. If you're ever wondering like why a trigger has a trigger guard, the trigger guard is so that you don't bump it against things. Because then, yeah, it'll go off.
position is important tactically when you're approaching a situation, because you don't want to do something. I'm going to do it to Jason because he doesn't get. You don't want to sweep somebody. This is what we call sweeping them, right?
Yes, sir. When you point the barrel at.
When you point the barrel at somebody, and that means that if the barrel's pointed at somebody, even if your finger's indexed, at some point it could go off.
Correct.
Right. And
Okay, so let's talk about sweeping. Sweeping is a bad thing. So, you've got your gun and you let it cross over, like you let the barrel cross and point to something you don't want to shoot. Now, this is a bad thing because the safety rules are built for basically the assumption that you have, they're built on the assumption that you're going to fuck them up. And what I mean by that is that in order to accidentally kill somebody, you have to break at least 2 rules. And so, either your finger's on the trigger when it's not supposed to be, or you've got the gun, pointed at somebody when it's not supposed to be. It's, but the assumption is that you're going to break the rules at some point by accident, right? And so this is, somebody says, what are the safety rules? 1, treat every gun as if it is loaded. 2, do not point the gun at anything you're not willing to put a hole in. They say anything you're not willing to kill or destroy, but I mean, sometimes it's just, I don't care about, if a hole goes in the berm, for instance. I'm not trying to destroy the berm, but I don't care if I put a hole in the berm. Do not put your finger on the trigger until you are ready to shoot. And so what does that mean? It means that when you are at the range, I'm using this bottle opener as my, when I'm at the range, I might be sighting down, towards the target. And then when I'm feeling comfortable, I'm feeling ready, I move my finger from the side of the gun over to the trigger, right? And so I go from, that, and I'm like, okay, now I'm comfortable, down to the trigger, and then, take a careful shot. And, so, and the last one is know your target and what's beyond it. Now, what do I mean by what's beyond it? Well, let's say I'm a cop, like I am, I'm officer whoever, right? And this is my active shooter. And I want to shoot the active shooter because, he's doing bad things. But behind him, I've got this salt shaker who is maybe like a teacher. And behind that, I've got, some kid and so forth. Am I going to take this shot when I got sure, I've got a great view of the target, but there's also a bunch of stuff behind it. Not so much. That's not a good shot. You're not going to take that shot if you can possibly avoid it because, there's stuff behind it. You should consider let's imagine, like, so this year when I went hunting, I saw nothing at all, right? I didn't even see a deer all season. But the year before that, I had a great shot on a deer that I didn't shoot. And I'll tell you why I didn't shoot it, because my great shot was actually a really shitty shot. And what it was is it was a really nice looking deer. Like, I would absolutely have liked to introduce that person to my freezer, my, oven, all of those things. But the deer was on top of a hill. And so I'm sitting there, and I could have shot that deer no problem. He was an easy shot, but he's at the top of a hill. And so the know your target and what's beyond it says don't take the shot, because if I take the shot, then it goes through the deer and into who knows where, or I miss and it goes who knows where. And I'm responsible for that, right? If I pull that trigger, I own that bullet until it lands, right? And I own the consequences of that bullet until it lands. So we need, we need that. I see. We now need Ian to show us his desk. Absolutely not. My desk is absolutely a mess, but I have all sorts of things here. And I will not show you my desk because it's got all sorts of things, including I've got a canned haggis on the desk. I've got a jar of jalapeno peppers on the desk, or not jalapeno, habanero peppers on the desk. I've got several hot sauces on my desk. So, yeah. All right, here we go.
So when you tactically enter a room or a situation, you have to make sure that you're safe so you can engage the threat, but also make sure that other people are safe. Because I'm not going to go in and sweeping people, and then under pressure, there might be an accidental discharge.
Yes, sir.
Right. And so that's what you mean by tactical.
That's what the gun safety is about, is because he's like, hey, we need to make sure that you're not, sweeping whatever. People are like, is that a desk or a countertop? The way this desk came to exist is I went to IKEA, I bought a desktop, and I sort of assembled a desk myself. So, yeah.
Yes, sir.
And so when you, law enforcement, go into a situation, you have to think tactics before you enter a dangerous situation. Right?
You have to have that thought in your mind. Yes, sir.
And one of the things when we talk about tactics and that fatal funnel, that fatal funnel is important because law enforcement officers in any department are taught to always, to the best of your ability, avoid a fatal funnel.
That's a fair statement. You don't want to put yourself in a bad situation once again.
If you've got the option to not go into a fatal funnel, don't, right? And you'll see this sometimes where you've got somebody who's like barricaded into into a room, and the officers will be like, we don't have any reason we have to go in, so let's not. Let's throw some pepper spray in there and see if he comes out, kind of thing.
And a fatal funnel is something like a doorway.
Yes, sir.
A hallway.
In my training, it's always been a threshold, but yes, in a hallway, that presents a whole different set of circumstances in the way you might approach that as well.
May I just kind of begin, Judge?
Yes.
If this is a hallway without the chairs here, and I'm rounding a corner, and we're gonna talk about slashing the pine in a second. And so if the judge, not to be a threat to me, but if he was in our example a threat, and I turn this hallway, and these are all walls, I'm in a fatal funnel because the judge is the bad guy in our scenario, can shoot me, and I have nowhere to go to get covered. Right?
You could be in a bad situation.
Right. And that can happen not just in a hallway, but if this was a building, and I'm coming across a building, this could be in essence a fatal funnel because I have nowhere to go.
At the end of the day, any position you're in could be a bad situation. It's all about what's going on, the variables involved, and how you approach that.
And let's talk about some of those variables. And so what is the difference? The jury's heard this a little bit, so you can do it briefly. Concealment and cover, what's the difference?
So concealment would be something that you can get behind to conceal yourself, if you will, but may not stop a projectile. And cover would be something you can get behind for the concealment once again, but that you would expect to potentially stop a projectile.
Right. And may I use the well, Judge?
Yes.
I mean, if you imagine it this way, a curtain is concealment. It is not cover. Meanwhile, like bulletproof glass is cover, but it's not concealment. So, Yeah.
And so I'm going to set up a little scenario here for you.
Oh, I'll share this one with you. I see Ian's props being dares. I wonder what the status of the gallon vodka is. So I am almost done the gallon vodka. And I want to share with you one critical detail, because showing you that this is empty, almost empty, makes it seem like I'm a giant alcoholic, right? But it's actually just venting out through the plastic. So I haven't really drank any of it. It's just evaporated. So yeah.
Can you see me?
No, sir, I can't.
How long have I had it? Like 3 years. Maybe I should pour myself a glass of it.
Am I covered or concealed?
You're concealed in this circumstance.
Okay. And so you're familiar with.
I like how Nico set up a demonstration, and the demonstration is entirely just, I brought some white papers to make concealment.
You're familiar with the term slicing the pie or cutting the pie?
Yes, sir.
And what does that mean? Can you tell us the jury?
So once again, taking you back to the threshold I spoke to a second ago, when you slice a pie, if you will, you're taking it piece by piece. In other words, as I'm looking into that room and I'm taking steps and gaining more of a view of that interior room, I'm slicing that pie, if you will, as I'm going through those steps.
You're slicing your visual. So I can see, I mean, you can't see what I'm looking at. I see some of the jurors, and I'm little by little slicing this room, and you can't see what I'm doing, but they can see, and they can see little by little, they see me as time goes on. And so I am slicing the pie and checking for any threats, correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Okay. And so I'm going to age myself. You look a lot younger than me. I watched Starsky and Hutch growing up, right?
I love this. His demonstration is peekaboo. The thing is that the whole slicing the pie thing is really like adult peekaboo. It's combat peekaboo. So, yeah, that's exactly what he's doing.
Right? You remember Starsky
I
and Hutch?
do, yes, sir.
Oh, wow.
I'm
How old are you?
Well, I know with the show. I mean,
You're
I've watched
not a
it.
woman, so I can ask you. How old? I'm 53. How old?
We're going to learn something about Nico, and I'm just going to say this blew me away. This blew me away.
I'm 43.
Okay, you're young. So I'm 53. So in Starsky and Hutch, the old days, no one does it.
Nico is 53. 53 years old, that man. Wow. 53. Dude does not look 53. I thought he was in his 30s, maybe. And but I gotta say, him being 53 makes me feel a little bit better, because I'm like, he is really good. The witness is 43. The lawyer is 53. So, yeah.
No law enforcement officer goes to the actual cover and pins themselves, bunkers themselves against the wall, right?
Correct.
This is a disadvantage tactically. I don't want to be here like this because I can't see, and someone can come around the corner, and for me to have to do this, I'm exposing myself to the threat.
Yes, sir.
Right? And so slicing the pie, you can't see me, right?
No, sir.
And I'm gonna point this. Do you mind if I point this at you when I make the cut?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You do mind or you don't mind?
No, you can do it, please.
And so if I'm here and I'm slicing the pie, I'm little by little, I'm there. Now I can see you, and I'm covered. I'm truly covered by this. I don't have to be on the wall. Matter of fact, you don't want to be on the wall. You want to be at some distance so you can slice. And then as you slice, then you make entry and you'll start working into a room to try to clear the room, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And that's tactics.
That is.
So bad tactics would be expecting an officer to get close to a wall, right? And to make that turn from that cover position.
That could be considered bad day, yes, sir.
That's a bad day, right?
Yeah, it's a bad day that ends at like a hospital, and hopefully, yeah.
And are you familiar with the term in gunfire, echoing?
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Like an echo. Like when firearms are discharged, there can be an echoing sound.
There can be.
I'm going to bet Nico would beat me at a 3-gun match. I think he absolutely would. So
Yes, sir.
And the larger the firearm, the larger the echo.
I would agree with that. Yes, sir.
And would you agree that it's hard to tell, especially with echoing on buildings, where gunfire is coming from?
It could be. Yes, sir.
Right, it's challenging. You're outside, it's open, there could be a vibration off this or an echo off a building, and then trying to determine where this is happening if you don't have a visual, it can be difficult.
Give me this first statement.
And so, would you agree, as a law enforcement officer, you should never rush into a situation without assessing it?
To a point. Yes, sir.
Have you heard of the term OODA loop?
I have.
We explain to the juror what OODA loop is.
So OODA loop, in lack of better terms, essentially means you're considering something, and your OODA loop is your thought process, your functioning, and typically you'll hear somebody say, well, I missed with this OODA loop, which means
they're going to explain what an OODA loop is. So it's not like a Fruit Loop.
whatever you did could have interfered with that thought process or what somebody might have perceived or the way they would have acted or so forth.
Can we break it down a little bit?
Sure.
Okay, so OODA loop, the first stands for observe, right? The first O is observe.
Yes, sir.
So you get into a situation, try to observe what's happening. Yes, and part of it is listening and hearing from witnesses or what you're hearing or how you're feeling, but it's observing your circumstances, right? Correct?
Yes, sir.
And the second O is orient. Because after you observe what's going on, you have to orient how you're going to respond to this situation, right?
Yes, sir.
And then the D is decide.
Okay.
Right? You decide what you're going to do, and then the A is act on it.
Okay.
So that's a process. Would you agree?
It can be, yes, sir.
And the reason why they call it a loop, it's OODA, observe, orient, decide, act. And they call it a loop because as soon as you're done acting, the next thing you're doing is you're observing again, right? What's changed, right? What's going on? And so you keep cycling this out and you keep examining all of this because it is it's really it's important. And they talk about the OODA loop as a loop because they're trying to teach officers to continually observe, continually reassess, right? And to consider what's going on.
And someone can go through several OODA loops in one incident, one situation. Because new information comes to you and then you cycle that OODA loop again, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so I'm going to talk about some specific tactics. See that bridge?
Yes.
I'm handing you what's been marked as Defense Exhibit 7, 8, 9, and 10.
Yes, sir.
Will you please review 7, 8, 9, and 10?
See, this one's not correct because there is no apologize step. Okay, carrying on.
Okay.
And you recognize Defense Exhibit 7 as the corner, the southwest corner of Robb Elementary, correct?
Let me think about my direction here. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, and then Defense 8, do you mind if I stand behind you?
Yeah, please.
Thank you. It is an overview of Robb Elementary showing the south side and the west side,
Yes, sir.
and the east side essentially.
Yes, sir.
And then Defense 9 is a similar but a different angle pulling away from Robb facing the west side.
Yes, sir.
And 10 is a bigger view, but also bringing in Groves and the street in front. as
Correct.
well.
Yes, sir.
And would you say that Defense Exhibit 7, 8, 9, and 10 are fair and accurate depictions of Robb Elementary, to your knowledge?
Yes, sir.
Judge, I'm handing to opposing counsel Defense 7 through 10, offering it into evidence.
Objection.
Submitted.
We're going to look at Defense 8. Remember, Judge?
Yes.
So this is Robb Elementary, and I'm not trying to give you my back, but I want to make sure we understand. So this would be the west entrance.
Yes, sir.
That would be the south,
Yes, sir.
east, and then here's the north. There's not an entrance, but so this is where that monster came in the elementary school, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then matter of fact, this is a police car from your knowledge of this investigation. This is Adrian Gonzales' police car. They left him in the same position.
Okay.
Would you agree with that?
I wasn't outside for this. I can't. I've heard about it, but I wasn't.
Okay.
So.
So if I represent you, that's Adrian Gonzales. You have no reason. They'll correct me. I promise you. You have no reason to disbelieve me.
Sure.
Okay. So you can see that if this is
I also liked how smooth that was. He's like, I'm going to represent to you that this is, And he's like, they'll correct me. The prosecution will correct me if I say anything wrong. And so it gets the officer to be like, sure, I got to do it. And yes, they've been calling the shooter the monster the entire way through. They've said they will not use his name. And I like that too. It allows them to distance themselves from the shooter, right? The client, you'll notice that their client is Adrian, right? They don't usually say Mr. Gonzales, they say Adrian. And when they're talking about the actual shooter, they say the monster. And so they're bringing their client close, like they're relating to their client, and they're making him relatable and like friendly, familiar, etc. But the actual killer, they're like, F that guy. And I'm like, yes, this is the right approach. And it's smooth. This is a really good team. Like, I like this team a lot. So, yeah.
Adrian Gonzales' police car, and where he went into the circumstance, he's into the situation, he acted and did something.
I don't know.
The monster entered over here, correct?
I suspect his defense may be funded by the police union because he's got one hell of a defense. There's 3 of them and they're really good. So,
Yes, sir.
And in your training experience and just practical in life, you've been to this area. Is there a line of sight from way southeast of Robb Elementary to the west?
Not from that position.
The school is in the way,
That's correct.
right? And so it would be impossible, not probable, not unlikely, impossible for any human being to have a visual of what's going on the west side of this building from where that car is.
From the ground, yes, sir.
Now, tactically, if somebody was hearing gunfire, could you tell in your training experience, or have you even heard of somebody being able to tell that's coming from the west side of a building, just from being in a situation similar to this?
That's a lot of speculation on that.
It is a lot.
Again, I mean, number one, you have to be in that situation. I mean, on one hand, I can understand if somebody was there and they're saying they can't, but on the other hand, if somebody says they could, I wouldn't dispute that either.
You would not. I want to make sure I understand what you're saying.
I actually thought that the defense lawyer kind of flubbed this one. Kind of. And I don't mean like flubbed in a like, oh, he blew up his case, it's done. I mean that this is a flubbed in the sense of I think this could have gone better, right? Not that I think I could have done better or anything, but just looking at it after the fact, I'm like, this could have gone better. And the thing is this witness is actually being really helpful, and the defense kind of misses landing it.
They're saying they
It is a lot.
I mean, number one, you have to be in that situation. I mean, on one hand, I can understand if somebody was there and they're saying they can't, but on the other hand, if somebody says they could, I wouldn't dispute that either.
You would not. I want to make sure I understand what you're saying. It's a lot of speculation. You're saying
I would have gone or I like to think I would have gone with, so you're saying that if somebody said that they could not place the sound, that's entirely reasonable. That's entirely understandable and expected. And the guy would have been like, yeah, that makes sense. Right. So because he's saying if somebody said they could place it, I wouldn't doubt them. But similarly, if somebody says they couldn't place it, I wouldn't doubt them. So like objection leading, cross-examination. You can lead this witness all day long on cross. You're allowed to lead on cross.
that you've heard of a scenario where somebody can be innocent. Okay.
No, I'm not saying a scenario. What I'm saying is based on my knowledge, I can see if somebody was there and if they're trying to tell me they can't hear anything there, I can potentially understand because of the circumstances. But at the same time, if somebody told me they could hear something there, or if I was to understand that you did hear something there, I wouldn't disagree or dispat that either.
So if somebody is discharging a high-powered rifle, are you saying that you've heard of anybody with the training experience to determine whether they're on the west side or the north side of this building? From this position, can you tell if you hear someone discharging a weapon, you can tell between west side or the north side where that fire is coming?
No, what I'm saying is if somebody's
So what is leading? It's a good question. So leading a witness is when you ask the witness a question that suggests the answer. So as an example, you might say something like, so you saw Mr. Brown strike Mr. Green first. That suggests the answer, right? It's a leading question. A non-leading question is who threw the first punch, right? Assuming that the background was set up, that there was a punch thrown and so forth, you can ask who threw the first punch, right? That's a non-leading open-ended question. Leading, isn't it true that Mr. Green threw the first punch or whatever it is, right? Now, on your direct with your witness, you're not allowed to lead. But on cross-examination, you can lead all day long. You can ask, and in fact, you're expected to ask leading questions on cross, right? I have had judges ask me, Mr. Runkle, why are you not asking a leading question? And, because sometimes they expect it. Why is cross allowed to lead when the direct can't? Because sometimes you need to lead in order to suggest that something's not true. What's the problem with leading? It is expected that with your own witness that they will just tell their story. But the cross-examination, part of the purpose of cross-examination is to contradict or to disagree or to disprove, right? And so a leading question that I might ask, let's say you've got somebody who on direct has said, I saw your client, stab the other dude. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm getting up as defense lawyer. This guy thinks I'm with the guy who did the stabbing. He's not my friend. And so I get to ask him questions like, well, isn't it the case that this was at 11 p.m.? And they go, well, yes, but, and I'm like, I didn't ask any but, I just, this was 11 p.m., right? Yes. Okay. And it was the middle of winter, right? Yes. And there weren't any streetlights out, right? Well, no, there weren't any streetlights. Okay. So it was dark. Yeah, I guess. It was really dark, right? Yeah, I guess. And if I suggest to you that there's no moon on that day, would that would you disagree with that? Well, no. Okay, so how do you, I'm going to suggest to you, you didn't have a really good view of my client. And the thing is, if I'm asking these questions open-ended, I'm probably never going to get this guy to that answer of, well, yeah, I mean, it was at a distance and it was pitch black. It could have been anybody. And that's where I want them to be, right? But if I have to ask open-ended questions, it'd be like, sir, what time was it? And he's like, late. And it's like, okay, a witness who's uncooperative, if you can't lead them, is really hard to get to where you need to be. So, which is why the other exception to you can't lead your witness is you can lead your witness if you can have them declared hostile. So, and there's various ways to get a witness declared hostile, but yeah. The other side's witnesses are kind of presumed or assumed to be hostile to you.
On that side of the building discharging a weapon and you're on the complete opposite side, to your point, could that be on the north side? Yes. Could that be on the west side? Yes. What I would say is he's not right there where they're at, but he is somewhere on that side of the building.
Well, what he would know is it's not on the south side because he's on the south
I
side.
would assume that,
right?
yes, sir.
And he has a somewhat visual of some of the east side.
Correct.
Right? Because there's an L shape, so he's got some of the east side. So just you can deduce that he's not on some of the east side and definitely not on the south side.
I would
right?
agree with that, yes, sir.
And in your training experience, if somebody made the claim that there were multiple gunshots from a high-powered rifle from the west corner of this building this way, southeast, you would expect to see multiple defects on the building.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. If they were shooting up, maybe you wouldn't, right?
Correct. I can tell you from my personal experience, we saw one on one of those. I was involved in that documentation, if you will. So I know that particular one that was on a building on that side. I believe in front of where that car is, or somewhere in that general area.
Was it at the bottom of the building or higher in the building?
It was up high.
Okay. And if somebody claims to be on the floor or close to the floor, and someone is shooting at them with a high-powered rifle, would you think you would see defects on the bottom of the building or higher in the building?
It just depends, sir. It depends on angles of fire. It depends on any variables in between them, like once again, shots hitting something prior to their objective, if you will.
We'll talk about ricochet in a second. I'm just saying is if you're sitting down, correct?
Yes, sir.
And if they're trying to prosecute a case on me for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, because that red orange gun was a real gun and I shot at you, and thank God I missed. Would you think you would see defects around the chair and around the desk, or up in the ceiling if I shot at you?
It just depends, sir. Once again, with my experience in investigations, just because you don't have a defect, if you're crouched down like you said,
Mhm.
and I'm working that scene and I see no defects behind the area that I believe that you were crouched down, I wouldn't automatically believe necessarily that he missed or he wasn't intending to hit you there, or she for that matter. Because once again, in my experience in investigations, just because somebody's shooting at you doesn't mean they hit where they're aiming.
So in a court of law, if there was a claim that I shot at you 30 times, where you're sitting right there, you're saying it's reasonable to a jury that there'd be no defects behind you, not even one?
I'm not saying it's reasonable. What I'm saying is if you told me there were no defects back there and somebody was shooting at you, and we could prove, assuming we could prove that they were shooting at you,
Sure.
that wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility for me simply because of my, once again, everybody has different shooting, experiences and training and what have you. But at the end of the day, I'm not saying that it didn't happen that way. What I'm saying is essentially is that if you have somebody that's saying they got shot at 30 times and there's no defects behind them, that would maybe initially make me say, okay, what are we dealing with here? And then work the investigation from there. But could it be that they shot high, shot low, or whatever the case may be? You have to take those into account as well.
Yeah. I want to make sure you said
So the point the defense is making is they're saying, look, this place where they're saying that because the prosecution is going to say that Gonzales was there and that shots were fired at him, but he failed to respond, failed to engage. And the defense is like, no, there's one bullet hole, and it's probably just like a through and through the wall, or like the guy was just, shooting at a weird angle. And so he's putting to this guy, well, how do these holes get there? Isn't it possible that it goes through the, that it was just, that wouldn't you expect to see a whole bunch of bullet holes behind them? Now I got hiccups. Okay. So I'm jumping ahead a bit to the re-examination.
Yes, sir.
Can we lose the consent?
Oh, I'm sorry, Judge.
Thank you.
You didn't like it?
Consent. That's not unusual.
Just from the photograph of fence exhibit number 10, if we have 3 officers by this ditch, and we've seen a video with the gunman actually running or jogging to this doorway,
Yes, sir.
that indicate that he's moving.
Yes, sir.
And would a vehicle conceal line of sight from an officer down here?
You very well could.
And with this vehicle also,
A vehicle.
a vehicle, depending
Yes,
on
sir.
the parking lot.
Yes, sir.
But you could see them for a short vehicle, but they're moving, it could then become no longer available.
That's possible. Yes, sir.
So it could be a very short window of time in which the officer could see that person.
That very well could be. Yes, sir.
Okay. The second thing I wanted to ask you about, your exhibit number 8, if I could.
Yes, sir.
The defense was talking to you about if you're here where Adrian Gonzales' vehicle is,
Yes, sir.
and you're not sure if the sound is coming from the west or the north. Do you recall those
I do.
questions?
Yes, sir.
If you do hear shots fired at an elementary school during a school day, and you're not sure if it's here or it's here, do you stay by your car?
I would not.
What would you do?
I would make the best decision I could and go towards those shots.
Go toward.
So this is the thing that now the prosecution has realized that they have to start getting some good evidence out of their own witnesses. And so they're like, okay, we're going on with this. And the prosecution leads a bunch. The prosecution has started to figure out that the defense is letting them get away with a lot of objectionable material because the defense has what I'm guessing, I'm inferring, but the defense seems to have an active theory or an active plan to not object as much as they can. So I think I've seen them object like 3 times this trial. And the thing is that the prosecution doesn't get good evidence out of their leading, but the defense is like, we are going to let the prosecution get away with anything they want to do as much as they can because and the thing is that they want to, they are giving up those objections on appeal. They can't go back at the appeal, like at an appeal, and say, we wanted to object to that. But what they're doing is they're showing the jury, we're letting in as much evidence as we can. We are not, we're not objecting pointlessly. We are. And so they don't want to come in looking fighty in front of the jury. They want to look friendly in front of the jury. And I think it's defense right now is, eating the entire cake, right? The prosecution is on their back foot. And normally, like, the defense hasn't called any witnesses yet, and the prosecution is struggling. And I don't know if the defense will call any witnesses, but yeah. An objection-heavy trial is frustrating for everyone. It's an effective strategy for defense if your case is garbage, because confusion and frustration inures to the benefit of doubt. Yeah, but I mean, here they just have the argument of things are going great. So now this witness, they go back and forth with this guy in a way that I here in the area, like this court in Texas, it appears that they can just pass the witness back as many times as they want. And so but when you start talking about like in where I am, they would not let me endlessly redirect and so forth. So would I call any witnesses as a defense attorney? I might call like a use of force or tactics expert. I might call witnesses as to like where things are and so forth. And the defense is going to have to think about whether they want to call their client to get up there and talk about what happened that day, right? And maybe get up there and, quite frankly, cry about like, this is the time to get up there and, and shed some tears potentially, but they may not. And the reason why they may not call the accused is A, they have no obligation to, and B, the prosecution's case right now is not good. And this is times like so usually in an SA trial, you want to call the accused because usually you need the accused to testify as to what happened and so forth. But I mean, I had a client who was on trial for an SA, and the complainant did so badly on direct that I barely crossed. Like I basically was just like, so your story makes no sense and it's full of holes, isn't it? And it's like, no. Okay, that's my cross. We had planned out my client getting up on the stand and what we were going to testify to, like he told me his version. I didn't tell him what to say. He tells me what his story is. And it's like, okay, I know what, I know where you got to go because, I know the critical moments. Like all of this is planned out. I had like a whole direct exam planned and all of this. And I looked at the guy afterwards and I was like, you are not getting on that stand. And he's like, well, didn't we plan? I'm like, I know we spent all that prep time and so forth, getting you ready, doing mock cross exams, getting you all like, I'm like, that testimony, the prosecution's case is dog shit. We are not calling you because the only thing to happen at this point is, if we change anyone's mind, it's a bad thing. So, he was like, well, I don't know. And I'm like, trust me. And, what do you call it? The really funny thing on that one was that, so the judge, after the Crown finishes the prosecution closes their case, and the judge goes, Mr. Runkle, are you calling any evidence? And I said, Your Honor, no. I'm ready to move on to closing arguments. And he says, Mr. Runkle, excellent choice. And the Crown still thought they might sell it on close after that. But yeah. Okay, carrying on.
The shots.
Yes, sir.
Is that
We're
how
going to
you
jump
train?
ahead a bit.
Just so people can get a kind of a visual of how big this is. You can see that's a person walking here, right? You can get a. Okay, yes. Yeah. I mean, so that just kind of gives. This is a big.
Pearl Snaps, this is a good question. Is there a reason there are two attorneys' offices named on the lawsuit? There's a Missouri and a Washington State attorney. I'm guessing. I will bet that the Missouri attorney on that one is is doing the heavy lifting, and I will bet that the Washington State attorney is there for the pro hoc vice. So he's there to he or she. I didn't actually look at their names at all. But the Washington State attorney will be there to basically supervise. The Missouri attorney is my bet. So yeah.
That's a human being. That's a person walking. This is after the fact of the investigation. So there were more cars here. This is not to scale of how many cars were during the incident.
Yes, sir.
But that's a person. So that shows you how big that coming around that corner, coming all the way down. That kind of gives you perspective of the size of a person to that school, right?
Okay.
Okay. And so as you make, you realize that's an outward swinging door. So you're cutting the pie, hoping at some point you're going to move in and you're going to have to negotiate that outward swinging door, right?
That's correct.
And then you're going to make entrance into a building, right? Into a hallway.
Yes, sir.
Now that takes time, right?
As fast as you can make it happen, everybody's got different tactical levels. So
Right.
I would like to think that somebody with much more training than me can get in there probably quicker than I could. But at the end of the day, yes, it takes as long as you can get into that room and address that threat.
You're making a distinction between training, and that's important to do, right?
Yes, sir.
Not just because someone's law enforcement or someone has taken an active shooting class or someone has taken an alert class, that doesn't mean that everybody has the same skill level, right?
I would agree with that.
And so in our scenario, as you navigated that corner and you still have to navigate another corner if you even are familiar with the building and try to anticipate where this shooter is going, right?
Okay. Yes, sir.
Because you don't know. I mean, if someone's shooting, you have no idea where they're going.
That's correct.
Right. And especially if somebody is not familiar with that building, they don't know where they're going. They're hearing stuff, so they have to move cautiously but expeditiously, right?
Yes, sir.
Did you know, in the scope of your investigation, that shooter, his home room was room 111 when he ended up shooting?
I'm sorry. Say it again.
Did you catch that? I really wanted to just catch that little moment. Did you catch what just happened?
Did you know, in the scope of your investigation, that shooter, his home room was room 111 when he ended up shooting?
I'm sorry. Say it again.
Did you know
Whose cell phone was that? Who has that ringtone? Yeah. Somebody is a giant nerd. Somebody just got glared at by the judge, but this is also something I recommend, is that if you are a lawyer, you should expect that at some point your cell phone will go off in a courtroom because, everybody makes mistakes. And so think real hard about what kind of ringtone you want. And the thing I always was kind of tempted to do, and I never actually had the courage to do it, but I was always tempted to get like a ringtone that's just like a quiet fart sound. And the reason why is because a judge will yell at you for having your ringtone go off. But I don't think that the judge would yell at you if they thought you just quietly farted. And so it might be a way to have like a safe ringtone that isn't going to, that nobody's going to comment on. My ringtone right now is just like one of the boring, like basic ringtones. But I used to have as my ringtone, what do you call it? Like the BBS dial-up sound, like the dial-up handshake sound. And it went off at one point at the courthouse, but not in a courtroom. And I had I had one of the prosecutors get nostalgic about it. So,
That shooter, that his home room was room 111 that he ended up going into and shooting up.
I've heard that.
And so it's safe to say in an investigation that that shooter had a targeted room. He knew where he was going.
That's possible.
And somebody that never put eyes on him would have no idea where this shooter's going. And the insinuation is that Adrian is supposed to follow the sounds without having any visual on the shooter, right?
I'm not sure what your question on that was.
What I'm saying is you have a person responsible for this horror had a connection to room 111, right?
Yes.
And so it's safe to say, possibility that was a targeted attack on that room.
Right.
Right. And somebody who never put eyes on that shooter, just only heard the shots, is having to guess where this shooter is going, right?
In that scenario, yes. If you didn't know where he was at and you're basing it strictly on sound, you're having to address that as you're going. Yes.
And then you have to apply all the tactics that we've gone along. I mean, just because you hear something, you're gonna tactically try to get there as expeditiously but safely as possible, right?
That's correct.
Because as you said earlier, you have to think about your own safety, not selfishly, but if you are injured or killed, you're no good to people that you're trying to help.
That's correct.
Right? Yeah, I mean, and if you had a choice, and it's a reasonable amount of time choice, would you rather have backup or not have backup? As an officer,
Just in general,
in general, yeah, in general terms.
anytime we can have backup, it's always a plus, but that's a generalization.
And if it's in a reasonable amount of time, that's a better tactical decision to make, right?
That could be, but once again, that's a very loose generalization depending on what you're faced with.
I get it. And may I approach, Judge?
Yes.
Are you familiar with school policies?
Well, it depends what you're asking, I guess.
Well, I guess, is it reasonable to believe that most schools require their exterior doors to be locked?
I would assume that's correct.
It's a safe assumption,
I would assume
and it's true. And so in your participation in this investigation, did you come to discover that this door was not even locked?
that's correct.
111 was not locked.
That's correct.
112 was not locked.
That's correct.
The two doors between 111 and 12, there's doors between them. That was capable of being locked, right?
Yes, sir.
It was not locked.
One of the doors was open upon our finding.
Right.
so one of the big things that they're going to hammer on here is whether these doors were locked. And the doors are supposed to be locked. And had the doors been locked, this shooter would have had a real hard time getting through them because, the, what do you call it? It's actually really difficult to, you see in movies all the time, people like shoot a lock open and whatever. It actually doesn't work that way. It doesn't work, that way in practice. It's actually really hard to shoot a lock open. It doesn't really work that easily. So, here's the thing. The defense lawyer is going to have to, they got to skirt a line because they cannot blame, they can't throw shit at the teachers and throw shit at the school without the jury potentially being like, these guys are assholes, right? Okay, that's a real risk. But the argument they can make fairly easily, what they can say is, well, here's the thing. It would have been reasonable for Gonzales to assume that those doors were locked and to assume that the shooter outside the, the shooter outside of the, outside of the school wasn't going to get in. And it might have been reasonable for him to assume that he's got some time, right? Because it's only like a 30-second window or the like. So this is a good question. Would an AK, it was an AR, it was a Daniel defense, shooting through the door still be able to be fatal? Yes. But the thing is it would have been very difficult that hallway they would have cleared out, right? And so the likelihood that he would have, would have taken anybody out would have been very low. at that point. All right, let's jump past that guy and on to the next guy. The next guy, by the way, is way more fighty for the
Yes, sir.
prosecution.
In 2007,
This guy is very much team prosecution. And he is slippery. Yeah.
became a trooper, was stationed in Falfurrias from 07 to 2012. In October 15, 2012, became a special agent with the Criminal Investigation Division. Did that to 2019. March 1st, 2019, I became a ranger in Rio Grande City. Did that for a year. Then I was transferred to Alice.
And where were you working on May 24th, 2022?
So I was stationed in Alice, but I was actually in Rio Grande City giving evidence to the 229th District Attorney's Office in reference to a murder investigation.
So part of your work is also to hold evidence or to organize evidence?
Yes, sir.
And so what happened? How did you end up going to Uvalde?
So I'm also a member of the Company D crime scene team. As on May 24, 2022, I was notified by a message by Company D Texas Ranger Patrick O'Connor. He was our team leader for the Company D crime scene team. He activated the team to head to Uvalde in reference to the shooting.
And what time did you get there?
So the notification that the team was activated was around noon, and I didn't get to Uvalde until around 5:30ish.
So the event was already over, is that correct?
That's correct.
What did you do that evening?
While I was en route to Uvalde to Robb Elementary, I was redirected by Lieutenant Joey Evans to assist Ranger Tyler Williamson at the Uvalde Memorial Hospital.
And what did you do at the hospital?
So at the hospital, assisting Ranger Williamson identify all the victims from Robb Elementary. And while I was there, I made contact with 2 deceased children.
And who were those 2 deceased children?
It was one male child, Jose Flores Jr., and one female, Jacqueline Cáceres.
And so most of the children from Robb Elementary School went from Robb Elementary School to the medical examiner's office.
Yes, sir.
But these 2 children went to the hospital and then went to the medical examiner. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I made contact with the deceased children there at the hospital, and then I also made contact with the justice of the peace who declared them deceased, and then I released the children to the funeral home where
So that was part of what he's there for, but they're going to have some additional stuff they call him for.
In order to put those boards up
That's right.
in close proximity to where that orange cone is.
Yes, orange cone is a marker for where the shell caissons were located.
Thank you. And State's Exhibit 872?
That's just a mid-range photograph of that same west side wall and a little bit closer of the to the cone.
And it shows the concrete lining at the bottom of the ragged concrete. Does that help us identify where those casings were?
Yes, sir.
And State's Exhibit 873?
And that's just a close-up of the exhibit, the one that we collected, the 2 cartridge casings.
So they bring him on again for a ton of identifying pictures. Okay, jumping ahead a bit.
Order that needs to be followed, because you just personally think that you don't need to do that.
No, if it's a legal order, then we follow it.
Right, because there's 15 people in the hallway, and one person needs to leave the hallway and go and call SWAT, while the other 14.
Okay, so this guy is incredibly frustrating here because they're what the defense is trying to say is that Gonzales was not doing anything inappropriate when he leaves the school, and he leaves the school, and he calls for SWAT because he was told to. Now this guy is weaseling on this so much.
14 remain. You wouldn't say, no, I need to be the 15th person in the hallway. You would go and call for help.
Correct.
Right. We're not talking about just you and somebody else. Now let's talk about a group of people assigning positions. I need you to go do this. And then after that, I need you to go evacuate these other kids. I need you to go and help and evacuate other children who are still in danger from a shooting. Right?
Correct.
You go, no, I'm not. I'm staying here in the hallway. You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't disobey an order like that.
It kind of depends, sir, because if it's an active shooter situation, the number one thing is stop the killing.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
it's pretty set standard.
It is a set standard, but there's also other things. It is, you have to stop it. Yes, if you do, but you have somebody there telling you, I need you to do this. I don't need one more guy here in the hallway. I need you to go make sure the kids are safe. You get that?
If there's a driving force, you go and stop the killing, sir.
Right. Okay. So 370 sat out in the hallway. You agree with that? And you know that door, you agree with it?
I don't know the details on this.
Just answer the fucking questions. This guy is weaseling so hard, and it's like, dude, Just answer the questions. Yeah.
You know now
Yes.
370 people stood out in the hallway, did not go in once the shooter was barricaded. You know that.
Correct.
Okay. Or they were outside, or they were around, or they were this, or they were that. But, and regardless of how you feel about that,
Mhm.
There were Rangers on the scene that didn't go in. You agree with that?
Correct.
Yes, Rangers that were trained just like you. They didn't go kick that door in, did they?
No, sir.
Vortac went in, finally kicked the door in. And you know now that the end of the stick on Vortac got shot in the head.
Correct.
And you know that the shield that came in first got shot.
Yes.
He was putting targets and rounds on the shield as they were coming in. And so you know if Ranger Montalvo would have walked through that door without any of that protection, that would have been you. Dead. Next, dead. Next, dead. Because that was a fatal funnel in room 111. You agree with that?
I would think that the goal is to isolate, distract, or neutralize the shooter.
That's
This guy is very much on script, and I think that he ends up looking bad in front of the jury as a result of it, because like he just keeps going back to, well, I would have gone in, and they're like, well, you know, this guy had orders not like to go out. This guy, you know, and the first guy with the shield got you know, he got tagged repeatedly in the shield. And yeah. So then we'll jump ahead a little bit here.
given to you by a witness, you would put out.
Yes.
Now, you would not put that out 30 seconds after the witness told you that. Right?
It depends if active fire and you're taking cover and, you know, but I don't know the situation. I would assume that once you get the information, you would try to relay that.
Well, sure. And even in the active fire situation you've been in, did you have an opportunity where you had information and you were in cover but still radioing from cover? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Right. Because you get down, but you're still going, you know, and your adrenaline's going crazy in that kind of situation. You would agree.
Yes, sir.
And you start to have auditory exclusion, tunnel vision, all of those things happen. And you've been trained that you have to recognize that about yourself as a human being in that type of situation because your body starts playing tricks on you. Right.
During stressful situations, it has been taught to us that you would lose the auditory disclosure and tunnel vision.
Right. So
During stressful situations, adrenaline is really good at certain things and really bad at other things. You know, if you have adrenaline, you can miss things that seem obvious, right? That seem obvious when you're not in the adrenaline dump, but everyone else is, you know, when you're there, you don't see it. And this is something they've gone on over and over. Former military law enforcement. Biggest thing we were taught is once you're a casualty, you're useless in that situation. There are times to be brave, but you are the weak link if shot. In fact, you're not just useless. You are at that point like a problem. Like, you know, let's say you go and you dive in and you get shot, right? Well, now all of these other officers are sitting there going, what do we do about this officer who's bleeding out, right? What do we do about this officer? Because now you're taking up resources. Somebody's got to pull you out of danger. Somebody's got to provide you with medical assistance. And so you're actually a net drain on the ultimate thing. But yeah, we'll jump ahead a little bit. This guy just keeps weaseling on these points.
where does it take him?
It takes them to the east side of the building.
What's south side?
Or southeast.
Right, southeast. We know, and we've been talking about it, you know, that he's now on this side of the building going this way, right?
Yes, sir.
So his action, perhaps a mistake, his action is now taking him, what you can see with the little people here, you can see his action is taking him pretty far away from where the shooter actually is.
Correct.
Okay. And now when these gunshots are going off, if you shoot in the windows, bang, 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 those gunshots are echoing. They would be. I mean, the laws of echo don't suspend themselves. If he's shooting in a building, it'll echo off the building. We know that.
Yes, sir.
If there are other buildings around, echo fire is going to start coming around. So because of his first action, thinking that he's confronting a shooter, he is now taking himself in a place that is more difficult to locate the shooter. Do you agree with that?
From the presentation, yes.
Right. Thank you, Your Honor.
And so now it's going back to the prosecutor.
Professor Goss is questioning, there was an issue about shell casings along this wall. You remember that?
Yes, sir.
As well as defects in windows along this wall. You remember that?
Yes, sir.
Indication being shots are being fired into the wall.
Yes, that would be evidence of shots were being fired against the wall.
And the issue about echo would be them bouncing off the wall and being heard by the 3 officers that come to the ditch.
Correct.
And if there are additional shell casings here, would you expect that those shots are going toward the building, there to be defects in that building?
If there was defects consistent with the where the shell casings were located, that would be correct.
And if there are shell casings here, but there are not defects in the building, would that indicate to you from that short distance that the shots are not going into the building?
That's correct.
Could be going directly at the officers,
That's correct.
which would not be an echo.
That's correct.
We'd have to ask the witnesses to look, actually eyewitnesses instead of hypotheticals, the eyewitnesses that inspected to see if there were defects in this building, correct?
Yes, sir. I wouldn't know if there was defects on that building.
And next you talked about communicating is where the location of somebody is part of the training.
Yes, sir.
So if you communicate, he's over there, he's wearing black, he's in the teacher's parking lot, that would be part of training.
That's correct.
And if you communicated, he's over there, he's in black, he's in the teacher's parking lot, that indicates you have that information.
That's correct.
So you've gone through the OODA loop, made your decision to communicate that information to others.
That's correct.
No matter where you got that information, either personally viewing or somebody told you, you made the decision it was accurate enough to talk to other police officers through the communication.
Yes, sir.
And you were sharp enough to do what you were trained to communicate the
Yes, sir.
information.
All right. So this guy after the fact is saying, I would have solved this. We're going to jump ahead a whole bunch.
And right next to you, you can put that on. But if level 3 is all you got, if 0 protection is all you got, you go in.
All right, here we go. Oh, this was where I wanted to be, but yeah.
You could isolate the time that you heard it. Is
Yes,
that
sir.
correct?
Yes, sir.
And how much time was in between those two things would be based on witnesses and dispatch.
Yes, yes, sir.
So we would need to hear actual evidence as opposed to hypothesis, correct?
Correct.
As far as rifle protection, there was a rating of 3 and a rating of 4. If you have a rating of 3 and there's active shooter, what do you do?
It all depends on your situation. If you have a level 4 right next to you, you can put that on. But if level 3 is all you got, if 0 protection is all you got, you go in, right? There's some officers that possibly could respond from their house on an active shooter, and they're not carrying any level 4, level 3 protection, or just any responding officer. It's what you have at the time. You're not going to go home and get your protection. You're just going to respond to isolate, distract, and neutralize.
And the train.
So this guy's very much on script, right? And I don't know that the jury is going to be, with him on this. I suspect the jury is going to say it wouldn't have mattered if he ran in and got shot. So I don't know. All right, so let's jump to the next witness here.
/security coordinator.
Would you tell us what an electronics technician / security coordinator is?
So what my job was to maintain the vast majority of low voltage electronics, anywhere from building automation controls, fire alarm systems, intercoms, and the security camera systems. And the /security coordinator part of that was also administrate the security systems and both security alarm systems and security surveillance systems.
Okay. Now, I think I want to drill down on the security video systems. What's the word or term you use for that, the videos?
That's going to be referring to the internal security surveillance system.
Surveillance, okay. And so are you familiar with surveillance cameras that were at Rob's school?
Yes, sir.
Could you tell us what your familiarity is with those cameras and the placement of those cameras?
So my familiarity involves the type of system that it was at the time, and that was a on-premises based network video recording system. And there were only 4 security cameras directly attached to that system.
Could you tell us why there are 4 security cameras attached to that system?
So that was a campus that previously had not had any security cameras before in the past. We had a number of campuses that had not ever had any security cameras. So that campus, among a few others, were campuses that were approved for a security, safety and security grant. It wasn't a real big one, but enough to get some cameras, a system in place to get it started.
Okay, we'll jump ahead a little bit here.
Real time, I think is a word that's been used.
We had determined that there was a 7-minute and 10-second offset. So there was a need for the real time to be displayed so that it would correct that factor.
So there was 7 minutes difference between what the camera is telling you the time is and what the actual or the real time was.
Yes, sir.
Now,
Okay, so this guy is brought in to testify that there is a difference in the video camera feed of 7 minutes is largely what he's here for, but we'll jump ahead a little bit further.
Breach, and everything had been neutral, towards the end of it. Then they started calling for certain district personnel to arrive to the campus. That was Kenneth Miller, was one of the ones requested to respond directly to the campus. And then fairly quickly after law enforcement met with him, they inquired from him who is the point of contact for the video surveillance systems for the school district. He informed them that was me. So they immediately requested my presence. So I had to make the location. They kept me at the FBI, one of their incident command vehicles. And then a little while later, they met with me and then asked me all the technical details of the system. And then immediately afterwards, came back to my office located on North Getty, which is just right adjacent to the central office. And they oversaw the whole process.
So this guy is the story of the security cameras, essentially. Skipping ahead.
Okay, now keep on campus.
All right. So without playing this, beyond that, this is why he's brought in, is basically to say, here is the security camera footage. I am the security camera guy. I can authenticate it. I can back it up. I can, all of those things. And here is why the timestamps don't match up. I see somebody saying it's a good time for that vodka. We'll try that. Plastic jug vodka. Get my microplastics in. All right. Whew, still smells like medicine. All right, so yeah, they play the we're not gonna play the video. It's pretty awful. And then we'll yeah. I'm just gonna say there is really not a good facial expression to have during this. So yeah. They do the best they can. And the camera, of course, is like dead on them the whole time. So I want to just take to the cross on this one.
Okay. Next witness.
time, Your Honor.
Next witness.
Arnulfo Reyes.
Okay, so we got one last witness of the day. Caution, folks. I don't use this much these days, but we're gonna do this. All right, so here's the caution. The next witness pissed me off. I was super pissed off about this last witness. This is one of the teachers who was, in the classroom, and yeah, he doesn't have anything to say about Gonzales. But let's see.
Want to get yourself comfortable? Adjust.
Would you tell us your name?
My name is Arnulfo Reyes.
And what do you do for a living, sir?
I was a teacher.
You were a teacher?
Yes.
Are you now?
No.
And when was the last day that you taught?
May 24th, 2022.
And where did you teach?
At Robb Elementary.
And is that in Uvalde County, Texas?
Yes, sir.
Who did you teach? In general terms, what grade level?
It was a self-contained fourth grade classroom.
A self-contained.
If you didn't catch the significance of that date of May 24th, so the last day that he taught was the day of the shooting. He has not taught since. And this guy, it is very clear, is dealing with some, some PTSD, some possible health issues.
Fourth grade classroom, what does that mean?
That means that I taught all subjects: math, reading, social studies, science.
You taught all of the
All
classes?
subjects, yes.
Okay. And what age group did you teach?
Throughout my whole career, or just,
Just this year, May 24, 2020.
it was fourth grade.
And how old were those youngsters?
And they're 9 at the beginning of the year, and then some turned 10.
How long had you been a teacher before this day?
17 years.
And was your room was what number?
Room 111.
And was it adjoined in another room?
Yes, it was joined to another room. Yes.
And what room did it adjoin?
112.
And were there teachers in that room also?
Yes.
And who were those teachers?
Those teachers were Irma Garcia and Eva Mireles.
Can you tell us how that day started, May 24, 2022?
It started like any other day. I mean, just a normal day, like to go to school. Yeah.
Okay. And did y'all have award ceremonies before the day was over?
Yes, we had a award ceremony that was supposed to take place at 10:30 around there. We were just waiting for them to call us to the cafeteria.
So the cafeteria is where the award ceremony took place?
Yes.
And what is award ceremony?
Award ceremony is like when kids get awards for special things that they can do and achieve. And so we just give them awards for the special things.
And did the parents attend the award ceremony?
Yes, they're invited to go. Yes.
Okay. And how big was your class that day?
That day, my class was about, I want to say 14 or 15.
Around 14?
Yeah, 14.
And after award ceremony, did any of the kids leave?
Yes.
And how many kids left?
I believe there was 3 kids that left that day.
And so after award ceremony, then what happened?
After the award ceremony, we headed back to our classroom.
And that was at Robb Elementary School,
Yes.
room 111,
Yes.
in the fourth grade wing.
Yes.
Did you get back to your classroom?
Yes.
And what happened next?
After we got back to the classroom, we resumed doing what we were doing before we went to the ceremony. And so everybody went back to their spots and we just resumed what we were doing.
Okay. When you say they went back to your spots, could you tell us how your classroom was configured?
Well, we were watching a movie, so like most of the desks were gathered together, kind of in the, I would say, in the middle of the classroom, and they were the kids were on the other side of that, and they were watching the movie on the big TV that we have.
And were the lights on or off because of the movie?
They were off.
They were off?
Yes.
Okay, skipping ahead a bit. What is this guy brought out to do? Guys, I'm going to show you this because it pissed me off. I am not endorsing this move. I am showing it to you because I thought that that the prosecution doing this was absolutely fucked up. And I'm going to have some yelling to do, but get your yeah, he was shot in the arm and the back. So
Okay.
It's submitted. You may publish.
Thank you, Your Honor. Starting with Exhibit 884, and if I'll ask you to tell us if these children were in your room or in room 112 and whether or not they survived. Okay?
Okay.
Starting with Exhibit 885, 884, do you recognize that person?
Yes, I do.
Who is that?
That's Josiah Garcia.
And whose class was he in?
He was in my class.
Did he survive?
No.
885,
Rogelio Torres, he was in my classroom,
did he survive?
and he did not survive.
I'm going to ask you about each one, so if you just say that, then not.
fuck you, prosecutor. So they go through every student in the class and ask, did this person live or die? This has no evidentiary value with respect to Mr. Gonzales. This is purely prejudicial. There is no probative value to this. And this is purely a dirty trick. And putting this guy who clearly has PTSD, who clearly has survivor's guilt issues, and now you're putting him through this? Fuck you. That prosecutor has his head so far up his ass that it's come out his mouth again, and somehow he was able to stuff it back up his ass like some sort of warped turd fucking. This is, if I was the, like, you know, if I was the boss and like I had a junior prosecutor come back to the office and I knew this is what they did in the day, I'd be like, well, you have one last thing to do here at your job. And that is, you are going to phone the families and apologize. And then you're going to pack your shit into a trash bag and get the fuck out. Actually, second thought, you are not going to pack your shit. We'll just mail it to you in a trash bag, because that's what you deserve, is a trash bag. Fucking hell. This is so greasy. This is so disgusting. Is this objectionable? I'm sure they lost a motion in limine on this. Like, I'm sure they argued and said, this is, and I suspect the judge was like, yeah, we're going to allow it. I hope the jury just looks at this and goes, we hate this weasel. Like, we hate this weasel. So, I mean, I hate it. I really, really hate it. And yeah, we're going to skip over all the rest of the, all the rest of the parade of deceased children that he wants to bring into this. Like, this has literally nothing to do with what Gonzales did or didn't do, right? Literally nothing. But they just want to make the jury angry in the hopes that the jury is going to turn their brains off and just be like, we're going to convict somebody. Can we get a puppy swoop cleanser, Runkle? Please. We absolutely can. Let's do a puppy. Yeah. Let's also let's cover super chats before we go any further, just as a palate cleanser, and then we'll go to cross. Dusty Hans, is the prosecution wrecking their own case? All of these witnesses reliving the worst day of their lives and barely even any mention of the defendant. I suspect that we're going to see the prosecutor, I suspect we're going to see the prosecutor try to wrap it all up at the end and be like, but maybe we don't. And quite frankly, if I was the judge and they don't bring anything that like directly points at Gonzales, I'd just be like, defense, I'm granting your motion for, a dismissal. Goodbye. Case gone. But I suspect that the judge is, how do I put this? I suspect that the judge is a bit of a coward. And what I mean by that is that it takes real courage to run towards an active shooter. But it also takes real courage for a judge to throw out a bad case that deserves to be thrown out. I think this one, at this point, if the prosecution doesn't get something to, to tie it to Gonzales, this one deserves to be thrown out. But the thing is that then he's got to answer to the families. Then he's got to answer to, all of this, and answer. So I don't know. I just don't know. And it could be that the defense let that slide because they think that it's going to play worse for the prosecution than for the defense. So, yeah. I'm not sure what I saw in the chat or what I missed in the chat, but thank you, mods. It sounds like you guys have it handled. So, yeah. Just me mostly. Thank you for the gifted membership. Much appreciated. Meme Empress, prosecution is failing to hide that the guys that are sacrificial patsy, 350 blues twiddling their thumbs, being useless, and they pick this guy. Come on. They're like, somebody's got to go to jail, and this guy's the guy. Bo Hoover, thank you for the YouTube membership. Much appreciated. Lena Fildevent, do you think there'll be a trial for the Renee Nicole Goods case? I don't. I don't think that they're going to be charged. That doesn't necessarily... I'm going to piss some people off. I think that the Renee Good case, from looking at it, is going to fall into the category of really fucking awful, like really hate that it happened, but I don't think they're going to be able to prosecute. So that's going to piss everybody off, because the people who are happy about the shooting are going to be like, why did you say it's awful? Well, because it is. And the people who are upset about the shooting are going to be like, why do you think he's not going to go to jail? And it's like, well, because he's not. So that's my read on it anyway. Some people will be pissed. That's okay. But yeah. There's a lot of awful but lawful in the world, and this goes in that category. Laura Liani, thanks for the recaps, Runkle. By the way, that vodka is still technically a vodka. That's the best you can say for it, though. Ooh. Thanks for the recaps, Runkle. I really enjoy being here, sometimes lurking, and look forward to it. Please help Runkle reach his pro bono goals by pressing all the buttons. Absolutely. Hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button. They're all free. Trakushin, can I email you research questions for my novel? Yes, but I can't promise I'll answer. We'll have to see. So yeah. So Unseen King, thank you so much for being a member. I really do appreciate it. Froggy Girl, I'm late, but I'm here. I feel like crud today. Hope everyone else is doing good. I will level with you, Froggy Girl. My back is killing me. And, when I say my back is killing me, I mean, like, I woke up this morning and I fucked up my back getting out of bed. So, yeah. So that's made it a rough day. But the thing I am happy about, so I've been working on a cookbook. The cookbook is going to be, part of the Extra Life fundraiser. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a price, like I'm going to set a level on it to say, if you hit this level, I will, you'll get the cookbook. And I had a really good idea for the cookbook. I'm really proud of this idea for the cookbook. And so I think it's going to be pretty cool. And yeah, I'm really happy about this idea, but I don't want to blow it, because if I tell you what it is, then you guys will be like, then I blow the joke, right? So yeah. All right. What, a cookbook? Yep. It's going to be Runkle style cooking though. So like the instructions will be very ballparky. Crystal Dagger, that's me. Left-handed, right-eye dominant. Yep. CJ, not magenta, but cheers. We did get a magenta one. Laura Fagan, ouchie stick repair fund. I got to try to figure that out. Mary Matilda May, mail time. We got that open. Rolling Along Still, thank you so much for joining up. Rolling Along Still says, picturing you, Stetson, sword, the ears, and your neighbor's reaction. I have done the hat and sword cutting back hedges. So, yeah. So if any of you, and when you're wondering, if you're wondering like what kind of cookbook, if you've seen my ratatouille recipe, if you've seen my discussion of how to make ramen, that's what kind. So MDL, why does the defense get to put on a case first? They don't, but the prosecution's helping. Violet Lavender, thank you for the 5 gifted memberships. Much appreciated. Jennifer Fernandez, what I don't understand is why all the other people there, especially the police, are not on trial too. Why did the prosecution pick this man to put on trial? Do you think he's the fall guy? He feels like the fall guy. Vez from Quebec, what do you not have on your desk? I don't have any firearms on my desk. So, LawTube Girly says, you're providing us with a ton of education tonight. Class is in session. This is why I talk about the gun stuff sometimes. Research attorney LaHood's life story. He was a drug dealer here in San Antonio. He's done interesting YouTube videos about it. I'll have to check that out. I'm going to reach out to their firm and be like, would you guys be willing to come on the show and talk? So we'll see. Kim Carter, my husband had an accidental discharge at home while cleaning his gun. Because he was following the other rules, he only hit the closed dishwasher. That's better. That's better. It could be worse. Trakushin says, now for something completely different. Please, oh please, play Claire Obscure Expedition 33 on stream. This game will blow you away. I haven't played it yet. I don't have it yet, but I've been thinking about it. My big issue with frivolously calling teachers here is how many bigger fish will be prosecuted requiring these same witnesses to retestify. If they have 10 trials, they're going to bring these witnesses on to testify 10 times. And yeah, it's ugly. Juani says, love mods. Thank you. And heart chat. Todavia soy orgullosa. I hope I didn't say something awful there. Apocalypse DOA, thank you for being a member. Much appreciated. Okay. Nope, this is an intermission. We're resuming. We're resuming right now. So here we go.
I want to start with lockdowns. Like what lockdowns meant to you, to the school, to the community.
So this, I was a bit surprised because a lot of the other cross examinations of people with like emotional backgrounds have basically been, thank you for being here. We're sorry this happened. And, off they go. This guy gets asked a bunch of questions.
Agree that lockdowns were usually tied to bailouts, right?
Sometimes on my Role of Law channel. And did I get a new refrigerator? No, not yet. No, not yet.
Yes.
And the jury's heard about it, but you're an individual witness, and so bailouts dealt with someone who allegedly was here illegally, and they're trying to evade capture of police, and they will bail out, that's where the term comes from, their vehicle, to get away from police.
Yes.
You would agree that the lockdowns in your community were not focused on active shooters?
They weren't focused on shooters?
The lockdowns were mainly correlated to bailouts, not active shooters, is my point.
No, I think it applies to all. Like it applies to bailouts and active shooters.
The training does, yes, sir. But
Yes.
I'm just talking about the perception in the community it's associated to bailouts, is my point.
I would say so, yes. Mhm.
The other thing I like about this teacher is that he's trying very hard to be correct, but he's not. He doesn't seem like he's trying to, he doesn't seem like he's got an agenda. So, yeah.
And so the lockdown rules, I believe you testified, and this is how you were trained: lights off, get under the table and hide, right?
Yes.
And there's another critical point of the protocol, right? Of the lockdown.
I guess to make sure that we're out of view and make sure that the doors are locked.
Yeah, and that's the part I wanted to focus on.
Okay.
Because the safety aspect of a lockdown procedure is the locks on the door, right?
Yes.
The other part of the lockdown procedure is to hopefully not be noticed by, if there was an active shooter, they're looking around, and if someone is hidden and in a corner and lights are off, they may think that no one's in there and they'll keep going.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So there's one aspect of it is not being seen. The other aspect of it, which is the locks, is to try to deter or stop a shooter from entering a room.
Yes.
Is that fair to say?
Mhm.
And the school had rules on locks, correct?
Yes.
And the rule was that the doors were to be locked at all times.
Yes.
And the rule was no exceptions. Right?
Yes.
But there was a culture in the school where, and because of resources, that there weren't enough keys to go around to substitute teachers, that there was a magnet system used at the school, right?
That depended on the teacher, I guess. Yeah.
But it was known, right? It was known that magnets were used to wedge in between the door and the frame so it would not click. And then someone wouldn't have to get up every time to open the door with a key, right?
Yes.
And this is not your decision, but it's not like other schools that have like a key fob where they can just click it and then put it back in easy access, and it can lock easily as well, right?
Yes.
Teachers actually had a key.
Yes.
And so it wasn't an official system supported by the administration, but it was a system that many, many teachers used, that magnet system, right?
I've seen it not only in our district, but I've seen it in other districts as well.
Yes, sir. And then that's what I mean. This was more of a culture of the whole school district, that for whatever reason, these magnets were used, right?
Yes.
And is it fair to say that the administration discouraged them, but did not ban them?
I would say so.
I mean, there wasn't a feeling that said, if you use a magnet system, you're going to be fired. It wasn't like that from the
No.
administration.
No.
So he's got to walk a tightrope here because he can't blame this teacher because the teacher is super, super sympathetic, right? But he can say, hey, isn't it the case that this is, the doors were left open and so forth? Yeah.
So the administration kind of, and if you don't agree, then don't agree with me, but kind of look the other way. Don't use the magnet system, but knew that people were using the magnet system. Is that a fair overall statement?
I mean, I would assume that she knew. You know.
Well, you're talking about Ms. Gutierrez as the principal, but I'm just talking about the whole district, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Because your words were the magnets were used in other schools that you know of, right? Correct?
Yes.
And then also not only, those are for the indoor locks, but the external locks, the external doors were supposed to be locked at all times, correct?
Yes.
And you know now that the external door was not locked, right?
Yes. Now I know.
But the east door was always left unlocked, correct? The one near the library?
Yes.
And the reason why is because kids would go so much that they just left that one, that was knowingly left unlocked.
I think they were left open due to rotations, going to PE, going to computer lab, going to other places. Yes.
And if I can direct your attention back to your room, you had a front door to 111, but then there was also a door in between you and 112.
Yes.
And both those doors had the ability to be locked, right?
Yes.
And do you know now that both doors were not locked?
No.
No, you don't know, or no, they weren't locked.
I didn't know that they were both unlocked.
And I'm not being disrespectful, okay? Whose responsibility is it in room 111 to make sure those doors are locked?
That would be my responsibility.
And so, and the reason why you had left doors unlocked in the past is because your room had printers in them, correct?
I had what we call like a community printer, and not necessarily leave the door unlocked. Sometimes it just didn't latch.
Well, that's a different issue, right? So,
Yeah.
so we'll talk about the latching issue in a second, and you reporting that to the school. But on the community printer, there was actually people would come into your classroom 2 to 3 times a day. You said before, and would use the printer, and so you would leave it unlocked at times.
Yes.
So here's something that is a common factor in disasters. Like every time there's a disaster, one of the common things you'll find is somebody bypassed, is that people started bypassing security features. And so what you'll see is, for instance, a nightclub where they decided to, there's too many people sneaking inside and, in and out. We're going to just padlock the exit door shut, or stuff like that. Right. People, the number of times I've seen like doors that have like do not block open that are blocked open and, is like all the time, because that's what people do. And I mean, I saw this at one point on a ship, and the thing is that the ship was the door that was do not block open. The purpose of these doors is that in the event of a fire or sinking, the doors close and actually block fire. Like they block smoke, they block fire, they block all of these things, and they cordon the building off. And so you get all of these things where it's like, well, we have all of these security features, but they get disabled, but they get stuck. And one of the important lessons that you need to learn in anything is from what they call paths of desire. Let me see if I can find a picture of that. So, all right. Here's a good picture of one. Give me 1 second. I gotta now put it up on the screen. So all right. This. Okay. So the desire path, you see that the official path here goes and has this like meandering whatever, right? The desire path is this little path here where people see that it meanders and they cut the corner, right? They cut the thing. And the thing is that the way to do, like, what this teaches us about design is that ideally you need to make it so that compliance with the safety rules is the most convenient way to go about it, right? It's the it's the easiest way to do things is in fact also the safe way. And so what you're so the ways you can do this, for instance, is you can have it where you've got a door that is supposed to be kept closed at all times. And if you leave it open for too long, it starts making an annoying noise, right? It starts going meh or whatever, right? And so then people close the door because otherwise it makes the annoying noise. And so building the annoying noise feature into it is actually also a safety feature, right? It's also, and yeah. And not scary, necessary, really. Hallway alarms for sure wouldn't unlock them in a school. Honestly, in a school, fire alarms may not unlock them at all. Old folks' home, fire alarms unlock doors. In most places, fire alarms unlock doors. And usually fire codes require that doors unlock in the event or that automatic doors unlock in the event of a, in the event of a fire, right? So the reason why is because you don't want people trapped in a building and so forth. So, yeah. All right, let's keep going here.
But at times you had a student, I think it was Rogelio, that
Yes.
you appointed. So whenever you did leave it unlocked, he would get up to open the door for the printing and when someone needed to come in.
Yes.
But at other times you would leave it unlocked just because it was a distraction, I think, an inconvenience, I believe you said in the past.
Yeah, it was sometimes an inconvenience, but I mean, I wouldn't leave it open all the time. Not all the time. I mean,
I understand. But on this day, the doors between 111 and 112 were unlocked, right?
I believe that one was unlocked just because Miss Mireles, who was the special ed teacher on that side, she always came in through there to get something printed. So yeah.
But the rule still said that the doors had to be locked, right?
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
And you had, earlier that day, you had exited your door to cross to room 105 to see if the teacher in 105 wanted to order something because it was a kind of a relaxed day. You guys were ordering food.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so at some point, we can play later for the jury, but you've seen that you leave your classroom from 111 and you cross the hall to 105, and then at some point you come back to your room.
Yes.
And have you seen the video of you doing that?
Yes.
And did you recognize that it looked like the door, just you opened it right away, it wasn't locked?
No, I mean, not that I opened it right away.
Okay. But you don't recall using your key, and you couldn't say whether you had locked the door or not, right?
The only reason that I know that I don't know for sure if I locked my door or not was because I still had my keys on my arm when I ended up in the hospital and all that. So if I still had my key here, why would I have it here if I didn't lock the door? That's what
Is in your mind.
is in my mind. Yes.
Are you aware now today that the Rangers came to a conclusion that the door was not locked?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so that was a factual objective determination that an independent investigator made, right?
Yes.
Now you want to talk about the malfunctioning, because your door, although it was able to be locked, sometimes the catch would get stuck in the door, right?
Yes.
And you'd have to kind of either shake it or jimmy it, and then it would click when you would shut the door.
Yes.
You had reported it. You claimed you were, and I'm say claimed only because we don't have a work order, but you claimed that you reported it to the school, correct?
Yes.
And I believe you have said that you reported it to the principal and to the secretary. Is that true?
Yes.
But there's not an official work order. We cannot, the government or us, we can't get our hands on a work order where you're requesting for them to fix that malfunction, right?
Yes, but I think that
You see what they're sort of hinting here is that maybe the problem is, that maybe there's an issue with, hey, you were supposed to get this fixed, right? So, yeah.
that the school police department should have a record of that. If they did walkthroughs, how come they didn't report it?
Okay, well, you're asking a question, and I can try to answer that. You guys didn't have a police officer assigned to your school, right?
No, but they did walkthroughs.
We'll go one thing at a time.
Okay.
You didn't have a police officer assigned to your school, right?
No,
So the high school had a police officer full-time, but unfortunately, your school did not have a police officer full-time, right?
no,
And the walkthrough, by whomever, whichever PD did it, it was to make sure doors were locked, right?
yes,
And is it safe to say there was a culture of warning teachers when that police officer, whoever it was, would check on the doors so them to remove the magnets? You remember that?
no.
Like teachers wouldn't tell other teachers that the police officer was there to remove the magnet?
He's like, you guys, whenever there was an investigation or like, whatever, you tipped each other off, right? I'm sure they probably did.
No.
Okay. So now I want to direct your attention back to a little bit to before the incident happened. I think you testified that you thought you heard books dropping on the floor,
Yes,
but it was far but loud, correct?
yes,
And then it got closer.
yes,
And then at some point, you said that you saw sheetrock chipping off of the walls.
something was falling or,
Can you, because maybe I'm not clear, can you, Judge, may I stand up, please?
Yes.
If you're sitting at your desk in that room,
Mhm.
will you tell me where to stand, where the front door is to 111?
on this side,
Tell me when to stop.
right there, right there.
And I'm sorry. And is this the distance you were sitting as well? I mean, your desk from the door?
No, I would say it's probably where that gentleman's right there.
This gentleman here?
Yes, right there, right there.
Do you know the measurements of your schoolroom, of your classroom?
No, but I would say it's probably like 30 feet by 20 feet or something like that.
Okay. And then when you saw, because I have to ask, when you saw things chipping and you made a decision ultimately to have the children hide, it was because you were worried that maybe they were in danger?
Yes,
Jumping ahead a
In
little
past
bit here.
lockdown? Correct?
Mhm.
And you have to say yes, just because.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Okay, this is for the court reporter. And you did not hear Amy yelling?
I did not hear Amy yell. No.
Did the teachers in 112, what were they doing during this time?
I'm not sure. I think that they were watching a movie as well.
But at some point, you stated that they were trying to lock their door. You believe that they were locking their door.
I never stated that.
Have you ever spoken before to the grand jury?
Yes,
I'm gonna find it for you, okay?
okay.
It takes him a minute, so we're gonna skip by.
Treasurer, he's not, he's staying in town?
Yes,
Tell you what, folks, we're gonna go, if he's not trying to drive back to the valley tonight, we're gonna go and break for,
Judge, can I just make this last point before we take a break? I found it.
if you found it.
So he was looking for the grand jury thing, and he's like, I really want to make this point. And the judge is like, we're going to go ahead and take a break. We're almost done. So here's the last point he's going to make.
Yeah, I did, Judge. Sorry about that. I had written down the wrong number. And during the grand jury, you were under oath like you are today?
yes,
And you answered questions honestly. May I approach?
Yeah.
I'm going to direct your attention to the transcript of your grand jury.
okay.
Can you read line 13 to 17 to yourself, sir?
He's got to read it to himself, and then they can ask him about it.
Did you read?
Mhm.
So as I said again, you testified before because you were asked a question. Did either of the teachers in room 112 come to your room and say, "Hey, I just got the Raptor"? Your answer, no. Lock your door. I believe they were trying to lock their door. Do you remember saying that now?
Yes,
And so you said before that you believe that the teachers in 112 were trying to lock their door, right?
I believe that's what I had seen or I was told from other teachers. Yes.
But that's not what you said in this testimony. You said you believed it because they were right next to you, that they were locking their door, correct?
I believe that's what they were doing.
I didn't know if you wanted to stop now, but I was going to keep going.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and break for the evening. We'll start at 9 o'clock tomorrow. Very important you remember my instructions concerning.
All right, so that is this day of court. And I have got to say, my feeling at the end of this day of court was not, oh, the prosecution is really starting to sew up their case and they're getting there. They're solving their problems. They're going to get that conviction. My feeling at the end of this was basically, like these people are ass cancer and, why is the prosecution doing this? I just I hated watching them do that, and I hated every minute of it. And quite frankly, maybe I'm not cut out to be a prosecutor because I could not. I just couldn't. I would be asking the defense, like, hey, you're okay just stipulating that the child, that the children, that the children died, right? And the defense would be like, yes. And it would be like, okay, cool, because we don't want to play the video. We don't want to show the autopsy photos. We don't want to do any of that. And these people are not good prosecutors. The thing is that whether or not they're good at it in terms of getting convictions, they're not good prosecutors. They're not being good people. And I'm just like, be good people. Be decent. Don't be awful like this. And I don't get it. I really don't get it. And yeah, it makes me super mad. Makes me just super, super mad. And if I was on the jury, I'd be sitting there going, well, I'm ready to acquit, but I'm also ready to give a one hell of an interview where I will just be like, yep, I have all the thoughts about this one. And yeah, those thoughts are going to be super, just a lot of swearing. Because yeah, I am so mad after watching what they did to that, what they did to him. So mad. Anyway, yeah, there are a few more super chats. Let's cover those. Hi, Opam Mom. Do you think they will charge others? There's one other officer who they've lined up to charge. There might be others coming. Short Bus 794, thank you for becoming a member. Much appreciated. THK says, thanks for the stream. I now have a much better understanding of the case. I was also pleasantly pleased to hear the first lawyer today sound like he grew up in my hometown near London. Yeah, he seems to be a UK lawyer and he knows guns better than than some of these Texas cops. So yeah. P.S. Ironic that a lawyer from the UK is questioning a witness about firearms tactics and training in Texas. Yeah. And actually knows his shit, which is the really impressive thing. So yeah. What percentage of this trial has actually been Adrian Gonzales? 0%. 0% of this trial has actually been Adrian Gonzales. It's all been about other people. And, yeah. I am so mad today. And we got more court. So tomorrow we'll be back at it. We'll do another recap and hope to see you tomorrow. So that's all for tonight. You have sort of caught up on things, and so I will let you all go. Good night, everybody. See you tomorrow.